Radio Play Comics is meant to adapt the stories mostly of great unadapted old and forgotten comics from the past. I use voice acting and narration to abridge the work as much as possible without lessening its impact, and to bring these stories to life the best way I can. Please enjoy. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for today's episode of Radio Play Comics, Indiana Jones and the Ikons of Ikammanen, taken from the ongoing 1983 Marvel series The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. This will continue my short series of indie comics to celebrate the release of the 5th movie, which I have now seen, and is quite good. There are a fair amount of indie comics, and other than Fate of Atlantis, none of these stories are available in any other format. There are three main eras of indie comics, firstly an ongoing series Marvel made in the 80s, then a bunch of limited series from Dark Horse in the 90s, and then some more modern comics that came out along with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, also from Dark Horse but with a very different art style. I could never get into the Star Wars or indie novels very well. The films just have such a visual component to me that I couldn't make the connection to the worlds I loved in my imagination. But here in the comics, I found that visual component I had been missing, and I could enjoy these almost as much as the movies. I hope you'll feel the same. These first two issues of The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, which I am calling the Ikons of Ikammanen after one of the chapter titles and the important artifacts it concerns, were written by comics legends John Byrne and Denny O'Neil. John is perhaps best known for revamping Superman in 1986 with his Man of Steel miniseries, and largely helping define the modern iteration of the character, which is still in use today. And Denny should be known to any fans of Batman as one of his longest-serving writers and editors. Known for capturing the classic appeal of old-school visual storytelling, Byrne's talents are put to good use here, as he also did the layouts for the art. And these comics, like the films themselves, attempt to capture the appealing essence of a bygone age. The stories are thus split up into tiny chapters, each with their own title, mimicking the long-running Republic serials as well as comics backup features, which both delivered short chapters of ongoing stories over a long period of time, to create and benefit long-term audiences. So know that even though these were published in 1983, they are meant as a throwback to even older comics. Indiana Jones himself is also less defined as a character. Only Raiders of the Lost Ark had come out, and these comics followed after its also popular comics adaptation, which was the first time Indiana Jones appeared in a comic book. His character, as such, was rougher around the edges. It wasn't until Temple of Doom that he was somewhat redefined as more of a superhero-type character. And that movie, as much as I love it, resembles nothing so much as a classic James Bond film. Indy has an adventure getting to a location that seems benign, but under the surface is an actual supervillain, kidnapping children and using them in a plot to dominate the world with dark magic and hypnotic powers. And he almost single-handedly saves the day, rescues the innocent, and punishes the evil, as well as returning the stolen magical artifact to the villagers. In Raiders, by comparison, he's just a guy mixed up in a larger operation, a monkey wrench in the gears, causing chaos and riding the wave of it to narrow success. He's making it up as he goes along, as Indy himself likes to put it. That's the Indy you'll see in these adventures, more than the superhero Temple made him into, though that might change after the Temple of Doom comics did come out in 1984. I haven't read that far myself, and Further Adventures ran until 1986, for a total of 34 issues. In this story, The Ikons of Ikammanen, we meet Indy at his college using a whip in class to knock a cigarette out of a student's mouth, who is suffering through this demonstration for extra credit. Something I find it hard to imagine the Indy we know as a fully developed character ever doing, but which is understandable given only his Raiders portrayal, and shows what an unusual sort of professor he is. I also think the editor might have said to make sure he's using the whip on the first page, no matter what. In any case, an old student soon shows up with a mystery in hand, and he is murdered from afar, leaving only the mystery behind. Indy pursues it and meets the dead man's sister, also seeking the fabled treasure, a set of golden statues known as the Icons. They'll both get mixed up with some gun-toting criminals also looking for the gold, who force Indy to be their pawn and infiltrate the sacred temple to bypass the traps. It's all danger and chases, traps and shootouts, magic and mystery, fortune and glory. It's the further adventures of Indiana Jones, and I hope you'll enjoy them. Now, let's begin. The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, Chapter 1. Just don't move, Miss Greebly, and you won't get hurt. Maybe. Professor Jones uncoils his whip while a student stands in his classroom, holding a cigarette in her mouth. Whoosh. Just as Marcus Brody enters.
Good heavens, Indiana!
The whip cracks, knocking the cigarette away and leaving the young lady unharmed. You can consider your extra credit assignment completed.
Does that mean...
Of course, your A is now an A+.
Indiana, why?
I needed the practice.
But you could have injured her with that thing. They'd have thrown you in jail for life.
Without risks, there isn't much point to it all. Or much fun, either.
Indiana, if you weren't the most popular archaeology teacher on the faculty, if you didn't bring in thousands of dollars in grants every year,
you'd fire me. Dr. Marcus, unless you have something new to say, you'll have to excuse me. I have an appointment.
Faculty meeting?
No. Pistol practice.
You made me so flustered I forgot. Someone's waiting to see you. A former student, a Charlie Dunn.
Dunn? He was headstrong, irresponsible, undisciplined. The best student I ever had.
Professor Jones, good to see you again, sir.
Forget the sir, and while you're at it, forget the professor. The name is Indy. What brings you to the old alma mater?
A discovery Indy? My sister Edith and I have learned the locations of the Ikons of Ikammanen.
As Indy shakes Charlie's hand, a mysterious figure lurks outside his open window with a knife. As the saying goes, don't kid a kidder. The Ikons are a nice legend, but nobody really believes they exist. Including me. Statues capable of becoming living Avengers? Not a bad yarn to wake up a snoozing freshman or two, but...
I don't know about becoming Avengers, but I can prove the Ikons exist. My sister and I...
Done! Suddenly Charlie falls over dead, with the knife stuck in his back.
He's dead!
And whoever threw that knife must have ducked around the building. Not a chance in the world of catching him. Let's have a look at what he wanted to show us. Maps of coastal Africa with one area circled in red. A photo of the temple or shrine. And an address. Miss Edith Dunn, Hotel Ford, Creek Amibo, Liberia.
Oh, what should we do?
You are going to call the police and play their games. I am going to send a wire to Edith Dunn. And then I'm going to pack. As of 2 minutes ago, I am on a leave of absence.
You're leaving? Just like that? It's...
Risky. Risky is the word, Marcus. Indy takes off his glasses, then collects his whip and puts on his hat before walking out the door. Chapter 2. Interested Parties. 28 hours later. A spanking new DC-3 drones high over the North Atlantic, bound east on the first leg of a day-long flight to Africa. For Indiana Jones, the trip will not end when the plane reaches its final destination. Another 30 hours by steamer will be required to bring him to Crekambo. Nestled against the northwest edge of the great African continent, a seaport town older than the presence of white men in these climes. Indiana Jones has been here only once before. Looks a lot like the town where I was with Marion, before we went looking for the Ark.
Yoo-hoo, Dr. Jones?
Edith greets Indy, decked out in her own form of jungle exploring gear.
It's me, Edith Dunn. Do you remember?
How could I forget? You got my cablegram? Sorry about your brother. The main reason I'm here is to find out why he was killed and who did it. Then do something about it. Our starting place is the Ikons.
I reserved you a room at my hotel, and I can show you the rest of the information we've gathered on the Ikons.
Edith? I don't think you should talk about that so openly, do you?
But why not, Dr. Jones? The Ikons are of enormous archaeological importance, but of no practical value, surely?
I think you're forgetting something, Edith. If the Ikons do exist, they're made of solid gold. On the street, men in robes take notice of the travelers. And less than 10 minutes later, Indy looks around while Edith talks to the hotel's concierge. I think I'll have to revise my opinions of Edith. If she's stayed alive in this dive until now, she's got more spunk, or luck, than I ever gave her credit for.
Right in here, Doctor.
Edith opens her room, only to find it ransacked.
Oh, my!
Uh-oh. Look out, Edith. We've got visitors! Suddenly, Indy is grabbed as men fill the room. The robed figures are a blur of swirling death. But Indiana Jones is a survivor. He shoves the man's head down and leaps over him, swinging his other fist to punch the swordsman behind him. And though sometimes that survival may not be easily won, Indy catches a knee in the stomach. In the end, he will always prevail. Edith is picked up.
Oh, Dr. Jones!
What? Edith! Almost always. Then, while he knocks out his attacker. Oh no! Edith! She is thrown out the window.
Dr. Jones!
Indy socks one more as he turns to the window. That's just fine. She survived in this hole all by herself for weeks. I'm only here an hour and she's dead? On the street, he sees Edith struggling as someone carries her away. Maybe not. But she'll be long out of sight by the time I get down there. Always assuming I take the stairs. The tools of an archaeologist's trade are many, though a bullwhip has never been traditional. Indy lashes his whip around a post and swings down to the street, crashing into a fruit stand. But then, Indiana Jones is hardly a traditional archaeologist. He gets up and gives chase. Hey, you! Somebody stop that guy! His call goes unheeded. In this town, in this quarter, men have learned to keep to their own business.
Dr. Jones, help!
Indy chases him through the crowd of people. So it is that no one comes to Edith's aid, as Indiana races through an impossible maze of back streets, keeping his quarry always just in sight. They round corners and run down alleyways. He's not much of a kidnapper. Even in this mess, I haven't lost track of him. Either he's very clumsy, or I'm very lucky. Or perhaps he did not wish you to lose him, Dr. Jones. Indy turns down a blind alley, but his quarry has vanished. Gone! Indiana has only a moment to realize the enclosure is a dead end. Before an iron door transforms it into a box. A box suddenly without a bottom, as trapdoors open. Hey! The drop is only a dozen feet, cushioned by an ancient and decaying mattress, which quickly turns into a most unconventional mode of transportation, as Indy slides through the darkness. And at journey's end, it's black as tar down here. Even the light of a match just gets swallowed. But it's enough to show me I'm not alone. Rats scurry away from Indy in the light. Don't think I can climb back up the ramp. And the only other way out of here is... locked. Natch. Luckily, I always carry my own key. Indy draws his pistol. Gunfire echoes deafeningly in the small stone room, overwhelming the sound of splintering oak, as Indy shoots through the lock. And a moment later, a foot now achieves what a hand could not, as he kicks the door open. Good afternoon, Dr. Jones. May I offer you a cup of coffee? Chapter 3. Dealing in the dark. Indiana Jones is addressed by a short and stocky man on a throne, surrounded by piles of gold and riches. Edith is being held by a guard next to him. The voice is rich and almost without accent, but the sense of power, the implied menace, are unmistakable. Please put away that ridiculous weapon, Dr. Jones. You will not need it here. I think I'll just hang on to it for a while, if that's all the same to you. I found it helps me sometimes to get answers. And I think you owe me a few, no? For instance, who are you? And why are you threatening Miss Dunn and me? Have you been threatened, Dr. Jones? The louts I sent to escort you here exceeded my orders if they harmed you. But you are right. Introductions are in order. My name is Solomon Black, and I am a businessman. I think you will find our interests are complementary. It is for that reason I have had my agents monitoring Miss Dunn. Monitoring? Well, that explains how she was able to survive in this town for more than a day.
Of course. The Icons of Ikammanen are of incredible value, and when I learned this child's brother had stumbled onto an apparent access to them, it became convenient to keep her safe until he arrived. Instead, you come in his place.
You talk as though Charlie found the icons alone. The discovery was at least half mine. But you won't believe that. Nobody ever thinks I can do anything. Anyway, none of this matters. The important thing is the historical significance of the icons. Professor Jones, all Black's interested in is the gold.
I'd already guessed that much. Sorry, Black, but this is strictly a non-profit operation.
You mean it was, Dr. Jones. But now I have involved myself, and Solomon Black wastes neither time nor effort on something that will not show suitable profit. But to underscore my sincerity, but
a sudden fluid motion as the guard holds a knife to Edith's neck.
Dr. Jones?
You see, Doctor? One word from me, and vote will slit Miss Dunn's pretty throat. Not a pleasant way to end her young life, I think you'll agree.
Indy aims his gun. Can he do it before I plug you, Black?
Inconsequential detail. Miss Dunn will still be most painfully dead.
All right, point taken. Tell me exactly what you want out of this arrangement. After Indy agrees to help, Solomon arranges passage for them all on a steamship. Dawn.
Isn't this a Czechoslovakian ship, Dr. Jones?
Yeah, it is, Edith. With a hold full of explosives bound for the African mines.
That is why we maintain the radio silence. These waters are patrolled by German submarines. One of their torpedoes and boom. Now, to the map. It is not very precise, Miss Dunn.
I did the best I could.
I'm sure you did, my dear. But I know these waters very well. If your maps are to be believed, the island we seek,
he points on the map,
is right about here, in the middle of empty ocean.
But 2 days later, Edith spots the island from the deck.
There it is. Charlie couldn't have found it any better.
Not much to look at, is it? That small and shrouded in fog? You'd never find it unless you were looking for it. However, the captain sees through binoculars that several other ships lie wrecked all around it.
I was afraid of this, Mr. Block.
Those ships must have run aground in the fog.
Or even been lured in somehow.
Whatever the case, I'll not risk my ship by taking her any closer to shore. I quite agree, Captain. I do not wish to end my days as shark food. Dr. Jones can go ashore in a dinghy with 2 of my men. Miss Dunn will, of course, stay here.
Think that one through again, Black. I'm not leaving Edith with you and your cutthroat crew.
I will not debate. If it is so important that she go with you, she can. After all, Doctor, where is there to run?
Minutes later, the creak of chain and timbers accompanies the lowering of a small boat. The compact motor brings them quickly to shore.
Dr. Jones, what's wrong with the jungle? The plants are all black.
No time to worry about that just now, Edith. We've got to get this boat ashore and hidden. Who knows what the natives might think of strangers. But as the first man reaches the beach, a swarm of arrows flies out from the bushes, killing Solomon's man while Indy shoves Edith behind the boat.
Down!
No further fire. I don't believe a whole swarm of natives just happened to be on the same stretch of beach we picked for a landing. Give me that knapsack. I think I'll test a theory. Indy tosses the bag onto the beach and ducks the resulting volley of arrows. I was right.
The beach is booby-trapped.
The other gangster holds a gun on them.
Then you had better be very careful going ashore, Dr. Jones, if you do not wish to end up like my comrade.
Oh, fine.
But, Dr. Jones, how can we cross without getting killed?
Leave that to me, sweetheart. A big part of archaeology is just staying alive. The crossing is slow and arduous, and something less than dignified. Indiana Jones slowly and carefully searches the sand ahead of them with a stick as they crawl up the beach. Steady. No trip ropes through here. Finally, they enter the jungle.
I was beginning to think we'd never get off that beach. But where are the natives?
This is probably an area they don't come through much. That's why they booby-trap the beach.
The jungle is so silent and dead.
25 minutes of hard going later, Indy gives Edith a hand as they climb up a rocky hill. Watch your step, Edith. I think this rock is lava. It's too smooth to be ordinary stone. And as the summit is mounted. Well, well, well. Looks like you get your name in the journals after all, Edith. Chapter 4. The Ikons of Ikammanen. Looking down into a valley surrounded by mountains, Indy and Edith see a massive structure in the center of an empty village. There is no sound but their own labored breathing. A weight of time beyond measure presses upon this place. Impressive. That tower must be 15 stories high. They climb down and head for the tower.
But I don't recognize the style. It's no African culture I know of.
It looks real old. I wouldn't expect to place it immediately.
The village isn't characteristic either. And still no sign of natives.
They may be out fishing or something. Although I'd expect to see women and kids at least. Now be careful. We don't know what's in here.
Unless it's...
Inside, incredibly detailed, life-size golden statues of humans form a ring around a central platform beneath a large hanging chain. The icons. I'll be darned. They are real.
The inscriptions on the base supposedly tell how to bring them to life.
It would be interesting to translate them and give it a try. But we have other things to worry about just now. This place makes no sense. The natives must have swiped this chain and pulley system from one of the grounded ships. But this tower is a couple of thousand years older than that, at least. Up close, Indy sees the end of the chain has been dipped in gold. And there are splotches of gold everywhere, as if it dripped from something.
Dr. Jones, this altar, stone, it's hot. There must be a fire beneath. And look at the icons themselves. I've never seen such absolute realism in primitive tribal art. Oh, Dr. Jones, I don't like this place. I'm frightened.
Nothing to be scared of, kid. They're just statues. They're fastened in place with blobs of melted gold. If I can pull one free, we can take it back to Black's ship and worry about the others later. He tugs fruitlessly for several moments. Then, the icon snaps off at the knees. It broke, and from within the suddenly truncated figure. Human bones! Oh my gosh, Edith, these aren't statues. They're... Suddenly, Indy is hit in the back of the head by a crude rock sling. Later, Indiana Jones awakens to find himself hanging from the large chain. His hands and feet are bound. The softness of another body is felt behind him. Then, a response from the past. Don't look, Marion! Don't... Oh. It's not Marion, and not then. He is here, now, amidst a most uncomfortable reality, struggling to overcome the familiar nightmare.
Dr. Jones, are you all right?
I'm okay. Who's the Joker in the feathers?
I'm not sure. They broke my glasses when they jumped me, but I think they're all old men.
They look it. Maybe that's why we didn't see any women or kids. This village has been here a long time, and these old fellows are the only ones left. But what are they doing now? The men in feathered cloaks and headdresses push the top off the platform. The blast of hot air is like a furnace swinging open. And, as the great stone inches back, yellow light floods the chamber. And a switch is manipulated. Link by link the chain lowers as the terrible heat buffets the captives. They're gonna lower us into the gold!
Dr. Jones, do something!
I'm working on it. His false bravado rings mockingly against the ancient stones, as the dead, blind eyes of the icons stare on. To be continued. 22-carat doom. Heat shimmers in the air, and the caustic odor of molten metal pervades this African temple. And Edith Dunn's voice is a hoarse, terrified whisper.
Dr. Jones, are they really going to put us in that boiling gold and make statues of us?
Yeah, unless we get what we need. A miracle. Or the best idea I ever had. Creaking and scraping in the stillness, the chain lowers its frightened burdens.
Can you read the inscriptions on the icons? Maybe they'll help.
Not likely. It's some mumbo-jumbo about raising the dead, wreaking vengeance on the wicked. We need something to keep us from getting dead in the first place. As I said, a miracle. Suddenly, the temple trembles and a bone-numbing noise booms through it. Somebody's setting off high explosives. Our playmates are going to check on it.
Is this the miracle?
Probably not. Outside, Solomon's men lay siege to the tower with guns and explosives.
The dynamite routed the first herd of savages, but there are more in the temple. Surround them and shoot. To kill, naturally.
When my brother and I were taking your classes, you didn't tell us archaeology was like this.
Didn't want to spoil the surprise. The explosion must have loosened the foundations of the temple. Whole place is coming down around our ears. That gives us a chance.
It does?
Yeah, it's causing the chain to swing. We've got to help it. Pump, Edith, like you did on the playground swings when you were a kid. Indy kicks his legs out, swinging them in a rhythm.
I wasn't allowed on the playground. Oh, only my brother was.
Then pretend you're him. Just do it. We've got to hit the lever.
But that will release the chain, and we'll fall into the gold. So, stop it, you stupid man.
We've only got a few seconds left. He swings, and Indy's feet brush against the lever. He swings back, missing again. Finally, he kicks the lever dead on. Made it! And they fall to the floor. Not a moment too soon.
We're alive?
As I figured, our momentum carried us beyond the gold pit. Of course, if I'd misjudged by a couple of inches. They untied themselves.
I'd rather not think about it. I'm just lucky it was your office my brother got himself knifed in. Have you noticed how quiet it's gotten?
Too quiet. Black and the crew from the ship probably caused the ruckus. Fighting the natives, I guess. Somebody must have won. Let's go see who. Solomon and his men enter the chamber. Black?
Ah, Dr. Jones and the charming Miss Dunn. I wish to thank you for your services, for finding a path past the various traps to the temple, for leading me to the icons I so dearly covet. Unfortunately, I no longer require your assistance. Shoot them.
As the gangster aims his gun, a dart sticks into his neck.
With pleasure.
He falls down, dead.
Something hit his neck.
A poisoned dart. Present from the locals. They're back, and they don't like us. Any of us. He won't be needing this. Indy takes his gun and fires at the natives. But I will. Black, we'd better postpone our disagreement for the time being.
Indeed we shall. At least until we have dealt with the hostility of the tribesmen.
The other men join him as the tribesmen rush them with spears. They're pulling out all the stops, attacking in force. We're surrounded. Head for the beach.
I'm scared.
Indy and Edith run to avoid a volley of spears. Uh-oh, problems. They've cut off the path to the water.
What can we do?
Make it up as we go along. These huts look pretty flimsy. Should come down without much effort. Indy slams his shoulder into the building support post, collapsing it, and he takes cover behind the rubble and fires. There. It wouldn't stop a rifle slug, but against spears it'll do fine.
I should never have let you talk me into this.
Lady, you asked me to find the icons, and your brother's murderer, remember? Will you get down? He shoves Edith to safety just as a spear flies by overhead. If you're gonna get yourself killed, do it somewhere else. The other men take cover next to Indy and fire, and they gun down the attacking natives in a line.
They're dropping like flies.
They really don't have a chance against firearms. Too bad. You have to admire their guts.
Not me.
Ah, that's that. Another triumph for decency, culture, civilization, and automatic weapons.
Dr. Jones?
Where were we before we were so rudely interrupted? Ah, yes. You were about to be killed. Shall we resume? Can you suggest any reason we should not?
Indiana Jones and Solomon Black hold their guns on each other. A couple. One is that I'll probably be able to drop you before I die. But you know that. I mentioned it the last time we played this little scene.
I'm scared.
The risk is considerable, I will admit. Still, risk is a part of my business. Your other reason?
Without me, you won't get the rest of the goodies. The inscriptions on those icons tell the location of a second cache of golden statues. There aren't a dozen men in the world able to translate the inscriptions. I'm one of them. It'll take time and certain reference materials, but I could do it.
Haha. I should be happy to have you and Miss Dunn as my honored guests, Dr. Jones.
And by nightfall, men are loading large crates into boats to be taken to Solomon's ship. You've got to hand it to Black. He's a pig, but he's an efficient pig. His thugs got those icons crated in less than an hour. At this rate, we'll be underway by dawn. Then we might even be lucky enough to avoid the war in this part of the globe. 2 hours later.
They've locked us in.
It could be worse. At least we're in a cabin. I expected Black to toss us in the brig.
When will you begin work on the translation?
There's nothing to translate. I made up that stuff to keep us from getting shot. I was hoping to get into the radio room and signal for help. But with the door locked and Black's goon outside with a gun.
Perhaps I could do something.
Such as?
I could lure the guard with feminine wiles?
Well, with all due respect, Edith, what feminine wiles?
Oh, I've learned a few things outside the classrooms. I have a gown in my luggage. Close your eyes while I change.
Why not? And
You can open your eyes now.
Edith stands before Indy in a loose, sheer, flowing dress which complements the curves of her figure. I have, and I'm glad. Edith, you amaze me. Then,
Mister, could you come here a minute? Dr. Jones is asleep and I'm lonely. Very, very lonely. Awfully lonely.
Well, sure, Dolly. I guess there ain't no harm in keeping you company.
Indy sucker punches the guard as he enters. Nice going, Edith. You stay here, lock the door, and put this bum's gun to his head. If he moves, blow it off. I'll try to send an SOS from the radio shack. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, you're on your own. Presently,
A fine patch of daisies this is. Don't use the equipment, they say. Maintain radio silence, they say. The trouble with talking to herself is somebody might answer.
Indy claps a hand over the radio man's mouth as he pulls him out of his chair and knocks him out. My Morse code is a bit rusty, but it should serve. I only hope someone's nearby to pick it up. Suddenly, as Indy sends a message with the ship's telegraph, a gun goes off behind him, hitting the radio. A shot! And a minute later,
Look, the Dane. We got your boyfriend, Dolly. Why don't you do yourself a favor and drop the heater?
No, wait! I demand to see Mr. Black immediately!
you'll see him all right. Edith tries to hold the guards off with a gun, but she is grabbed from behind.
But you ain't gonna like it.
Within moments,
I am, as you Americans say, Dr. Jones, fed up.
me too.
Take them on deck, where they will walk the plank.
Indy is forced to surrender as well, and they are taken to the ship's deck.
I respect the customs of the sea. I am, by nature, deeply traditional.
You're also deeply corny. And aren't you forgetting the translation?
I shall find another expert to do it, Dr. Jones. You have proven yourself untrustworthy.
A half-league away, a periscope fixes on the freighter. A command is barked, and...
Arg!
A torpedo is launched from a German sub. Indy spots it in the water. A torpedo! A German submarine must have caught my radio signal. We're aboard a Czechoslovakian ship, and the Nazis aren't getting along with the Czechs these days. We won't walk the plank, we'll run! He grabs Edith and leaps off the ship. Two explosions. First the Nazi warhead, and 3 seconds later, a hold full of dynamite. A stench of burning oil and hot metal mingles with the salt tang of the sea, and the faint howls of trapped and shattered men are silenced by the rush of water, as the ship begins to sink. A crate pops up above the water with Indy and Edith clinging to it. Looks like it's just you and me, Edith. We ought to thank that treacherous rat Black if he hadn't put us on the plank.
We mustn't lose the icon. It's the only proof of our achievement.
Someday you'll have to explain exactly which achievement you mean. The submarine surfaces as well. There's the U-boat. They owe us a rescue. Hey, Deutschlanders, ahoy! And all are soon brought on board. Your country and mine aren't officially at war. Not yet, Herr Captain. So dunking a couple of U.S. citizens probably makes you guilty of about 8 international crimes. But I won't be fussy about that. Get us and our property to America and we'll call it square.
And give me dry clothes, you stinkers.
Exactly 1 month later.
We are a kilometer from New York, Dr. Jones. We give you a boat to go ashore. I have enjoyed our talks.
I wish I could say the same. That afternoon at Idlewild Airport.
Isn't it exciting? I've hired an airplane to fly me and my icon home. They're dedicating a whole wing of the museum to us.
You and your brother?
No, silly. Me and my icon. Oh, it's a shame that Charlie was murdered and all.
I'm sure he'd agree.
But I took the risks, and I deserve the glory. Every bit of it. Be careful with that, you men.
The crated relic is loaded onto a small plane.
The newspapers will be there, and the radio, and the Life magazine, and the movie newsreels.
And me. I'd like to tag along.
What for? So you can hog some of the spotlight?
No, Edith, you're welcome to the fame. It's just that I feel an obligation to Charlie. An obligation to take care of you.
Well, all right.
Soon, the plane is airborne. I'll say it again, Edith. You amaze me. You might still get clean away with it.
Whatever are you blathering about?
Charlie's murder. You really did want the glory for yourself, didn't you? Or was there another reason? Were you tired of always being in Charlie's shadow? Did you hate him for that?
How dare you?
Can it, sweetheart? I've suspected almost from the beginning, and ever since our little adventure on the ship, I've been certain. I've got to hand it to you, though. You're good. You're very, very good. You'd have fooled me completely if it hadn't been for a couple of tiny things.
What might those have been, Doctor?
You mentioned that your brother was killed in my office. How'd you know? I didn't tell you. Then, at the radio shack on the ship, you fired at me. It wasn't any of the crew or Black's men. They came after they heard the shot. You had a gun and a motive. You figured with me dead, you could make a deal with Black. Lucky for me, you'd lost your glasses. Without them, you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. What you didn't do was actually throw the dagger into your brother's back. You were in Africa at the time with Black's men watching you. I wonder who did do your dirty work. A man emerges from the cockpit, holding a gun.
I did, pal. I took care of that knife-throwing chore for Edie. Swell job, too.
Jerry here appreciates me. He loves me for myself.
And for the money the discovery of the icon will undoubtedly bring in. Right, Jerry?
Shut up, Pally. Plane's an automatic pilot, Edie. Name your pleasure.
I want the high and mighty Dr. Indiana Jones to die. Kill him.
I give you a choice, Pally. You can stop a slug here, or you can step outside. Minus a parachute, of course. That way, you got a few seconds to say your prayers.
There might be a third possibility. I had a month on that sub to decipher the inscription at the base of the icon. It's interesting. A formula for bringing vengeance to the wicked. I'd say you people qualify, wouldn't you?
Don't listen to his nonsense.
Shut up. I like crazy stories. Go ahead, Pally. Tell us this magic formula.
It's in words that must be spoken in the presence of an icon. These words. Boosta, coddle, de, harg.
Huh? The crate. Open it. And the statue. Climb it out.
Not exactly a statue. A gold-encrusted Avenger. Jerry shoots the golden figure with his gun, but to no avail. Save your bullets. He's already dead.
Stop it, Jones.
I couldn't if I wanted to. Indy straps on a parachute. I'll set the controls to take this kite over the Atlantic. I wouldn't want whatever came out of that box to be walking around loose. Now I'll take your suggestion and step outside. Only with chute. I won't wish you luck, Edith. That'd be a lie. And anyway, it's too late. As golden hands reach for Edith's neck, Indiana Jones jumps out of the plane. Once in the air, he pulls his ripcord and his parachute deploys. But I will remember you. The longest day I live, I will never forget Edith Dunn. And if I were the praying kind, I'd do that for you too. A shriek, then a scream of consuming terror, a cry of the wicked that is quickly lost in the distant grumble of thunder and the whistle of a sudden chilling wind. End. Next, Into the Devil's Cradle. And now I'll briefly recap the third issue just to resolve that cliffhanger ending. Indy safely floats down to a jungle below, only to find a man cornered by a group of men and about to be hanged. He rescues the man, holding the crowd off with his whip, and they escape. They attempt to cross a rope bridge, but their pursuers cut it loose, and Indy and his new friends scramble up the rocky cliff on the far side, finally ending the chase. The man brings Indy to meet an old man in a cave who claims to be Prospero, extending his life with a magical elixir, and who is fighting the soldiers in the jungle to protect his special spring, and who plans to bring the mountain itself down upon them. After a few fights, captures, and escapes, Indy finally uses an artillery gun to shoot the mountain and make the rocks fall safely away from the people. With the cave sealed, Prospero and his companion move on to search for another spring. The next story, which begins with this really cool cover, is about Stonehenge, where an artifact has been newly discovered, a crystal cylinder covered in unknown symbols. Indy is asked by the British government to retrieve it before the Nazis can. Paired with an attractive female language expert, he finds the item, and they make a quick escape by jumping out the fourth-story window of their hotel, only to bounce safely from an awning below and jump in a taxi for a speedy getaway. They figured out enough from the symbols to know the crystal predates recorded history and refers to ancient entities who left this place via a magic gateway, and something about a possible return. Eventually they commandeer another car, but are driven off a bridge. Indy barely casts his whip and swings them to safety before the car falls into the river below. More fights, chases, and escapes follow, including Indy driving a motorcycle with sidecar over a collapsing rope bridge. But finally they end up captured and the Nazis get the crystal, bringing them both along to Stonehenge. The Nazis activate the circle of stones with the crystal, and a huge portal begins to open in the sky. Indy is horrified to see what resembles gigantic snakes, but also hints of other primal animal forms as well. As the entities reach for the earth, Indiana is sorely tempted by the lost knowledge they might possess, but he realizes that it's too dangerous a chance to take to allow them through, and regretfully destroys the artifact, closing the portal as well. So I think by now you can see the pattern this book would follow, weaving in both famous and fictional artifacts and entities, and pairing Indy with a variety of temporary partners. I think it's interesting to see how many things that became hallmarks of the later Indy movies would first make an appearance here in this book, but it's not that the filmmakers took inspiration from here. Rather, all of these things, like the breaking rope bridge and being lowered by chain into a hot substance of doom, were always part of the Old Republic serials and adventure films that George and Stephen loved. So that's the source that both the book and later the films would draw upon. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for today's episode of Radio Play Comics, Indiana Jones and the Golden Fleece. The Greek myth of the Golden Fleece is but part of a larger story. It is a symbol of kingship and a piece of indestructible armor that Jason of the Argonauts fame must win from the dragon who guards it. But its backstory goes a little deeper. The fleece belonged to a golden ram which was created by the Greek gods, and whose task was to rescue the children of Nephele from their jealous stepmother's wrath. Even after her own death, a shade of Nephele sent the ram to bring her son Phrixus and daughter Hele to safety across the sea in Colchis. Hele fell over the sea, creating the chain of islands now known as Hellespont, but the ram saved the boy, who then sacrificed the ram to Zeus to thank the gods, and it became the constellation known as Ares. Its fleece was hung on a tree in a sacred grove, with a sleeping dragon at the base. When Jason set out to quest for the fleece, and the right to rule, he petitioned the goddess Hecate for protection when he married her priestess Medea, and she gave him the magical treasures he would need on his journey. But in this story, it's not as important what the fleece does as what it represents, and of course the action and adventure Indy will go through in its pursuit. Beginning during the British evacuation of Turkey just as the Germans were storming in 1941. Indy finds a clue to the ancient fleece and narrowly escapes the Germans with a local pregnant woman needing rescue, who is both tougher and more useful than she looks. Together they pursue a cult to the mythical grove of the Golden Fleece with the aim of reconsecrating it, and according to legend, whoever holds the fleece is guaranteed victory in war. But what of the sleeping dragon? Does it still stand guard? It's all Indy can do to hang on to his hat as reality and myth collide in an explosive climax. While most of the Dark Horse stories are 4 issues, this one is only 2, and it packs a ton of adventure into a small package, and I think it shows off very well what most of these tales are like, meaning that if you do enjoy this, you'll probably enjoy the rest as well. High on a snowy mountain, a group of robed cultists make their way to a tree, along with a ram. The ram bleats loudly in the howling wind, while a cultist takes out a knife and slaughters it. The animal's hot blood hisses as it lands in the snow. From the Memoirs of Indiana Jones. The promise of blossoming life, of nature renewing itself, was carried on the warm scented breezes of that sun-drenched afternoon in spring. But April 26, 1941 wasn't a day when the population of Greece thought of new beginnings. I came to the Peloponnesian Peninsula as advisor to an American archaeological expedition sanctioned by the Greek government. Talk about bad timing. In recent weeks, the Nazi war machine had swept south across the countryside, mercilessly driving back newly arrived British defensive forces. Now, it was our turn. Indy and his fellow academics are driven to a waiting boat in a truck with the British soldiers, as they wade into the water en masse to board their own transports.
This is an outrage, Colonel. What gives you the right to just drag us off an excavation of such importance? Make no mistake about it, Professor. The British Army doesn't enjoy playing wet nurse to a pack of grave-digging academics. Grave-diggers? That's an Achaean king's tomb and palace up there. A Bronze Age megaron. Possibly containing Atreus and his treasure. By tomorrow, we'd have the burial vault open. We warned your lot to clear out a fortnight ago, but did you listen? Well, now you have to go. By morning, there'll be Germans swarming all over these hills. Dr. Jones, talk some sense into this idiot.
I suggest we do as the man says.
But, the site is completely exposed. All of our work will fall into the hands of those damned Nazis.
Look at our team, Malcolm. They're students. Just kids, for God's sake. We can't subject them to this kind of danger. The truck rolls to a stop, and the back is opened.
Perhaps if we left a skeleton crew behind.
I haven't got the time for this. I've got about 5,000 troops to evacuate.
Take care of business, Colonel. I'll get this bunch onto the landing craft. Let's go. Hit the beach. Hustle. The students pile out and join the rush of soldiers.
No, I won't do it. I'm bitterly disappointed in you, Dr. Jones, putting petty politics before your profession.
Malcolm, look out! Junkers! Suddenly, German planes swoop down from the sky, strafing the beach with bombs. Indy races to Malcolm and tackles him to safety. Debris rains down around them. This isn't politics, Malcolm. This is war.
I'm beginning to see your point.
Come on, everybody into the landing craft. Indy picks him up and gets Malcolm on the boat. All accounted for? Good. Then he jumps off the back. I'll try to rendezvous with you in Alexandria.
Jones, what are you doing?
Close your mouth, Malcolm. You'll catch flies. Indy takes his hat from his satchel and puts it on. Assuming the treasure of Atreus is in that tomb, somebody's got to beat the Nazis there. Tonight. If I don't make it, forward my mail. Care of the Fuhrer. He charges up the beach against the tide of rushing soldiers. Without the help of the others, it took me longer than I expected. The Mediterranean moon was high over the dig by the time I had broken the seal and entered the burial vault. Damn! I should have known better. Indy shines a flashlight in the dark tomb. Grave robbers! The odds of a pristine find are always small. Still, I had risked more on less before. Let's just see if they took it all. He lights a torch, placing it on a wall. His flashlight beam comes across a cobwebbed human skull. Ugh. A cutlass protrudes from the skeleton's ribcage. It wasn't hard to guess what had happened. A story as old as greed itself. Looks like your pal didn't want to split the loot. Archaeology had taught me many lessons, if this was the tomb of Atreus, King High Mucky Muck of the Mycenae. But maybe he overlooked something. Indy clears dust off the walls. And father to Agamemnon of Argos, the commander-in-chief of the Greek sack of Troy. And there had to be a surprise or two waiting for me. I was sure of it. Child's play from Mrs. Jones' fair-haired boy. He finds an inscription and translates it. A foot for each finger. I paced off a foot for each finger. 8, 9, 10. If a grave-robbing Jasper hadn't beaten me to it, something worthy of a king's conundrum was waiting for me to reveal it to the world. He clears off the spot. Indy takes the sword and fits it into a space between the stones on the floor. I just needed a little help to coax it into the light. He begins to pry, but the blade snaps off. The stubborn stone was as unyielding as the conquering Mycenae themselves. But I was determined to uncover their precious secret. Indy jams the remaining blade into the space and pries the stone loose. Indiana Jones finds a dagger beneath it, with a symbol of overlapping forks on its hilt. The workmanship was pre-Mycenaean, from ancient Colchis, where myth had Jason and his Argonauts claim the Golden Fleece. When I finally left the tomb, Apollo had already ridden his chariot into the sky. My imagination, and my wits too, it turned out, had raced east, to the far shore of the Black Sea, the rumored home of ancient Colchis. The Caucasus. Luckily, I saw him first. Indy picks up a rock as he approaches a young German soldier.
Hey!
Not so luckily. He wasn't the only German around. An officer sees him, so he quickly grabs the man and raises the rock high.
You Greek? Or British, maybe?
Evidently, I wasn't the only one busy during the night. An advance of German engineers was setting up a quick and dirty little landing strip.
Surround him! Don't let the spy escape!
More soldiers soon joined them, pointing their guns at Indy.
Stay back, or this man gets it. I'm not fooling around.
Now look, I know you guys are just engineers, not real soldiers. You don't want any trouble?
I don't want any trouble. Nobody here wants to get hurt.
The officer draws his gun and turns the safety off.
Your use of this man as a shield is futile. Every German soldier is willing to lay down his life for the fatherland.
He shoots the young soldier dead while Indy holds him. And he slumps to the ground.
Jeez. And now, you're next.
The soldiers open fire as Indy dives down the hill and runs for it.
After him!
I had lived through many a chase before that day, and dodged many a spear, arrow, and bullet. But it had been a long time since I had ridden a bike. At the bottom of the hill, Indy jumps on a bicycle, narrowly avoiding the Germans' gunfire. It was true, though. You really don't forget how to ride one.
Heading into town! Bicycle! Kill!
They radio ahead, and a pair of trucks drive towards Indy's path as he nears an alleyway. He makes it through just before the trucks collide and explode. In fact, there are ideal moments when it can be quite exhilarating. Another soldier fires, hitting a post as he passes it.
This way!
Yes. On a good slope, you can build up a real head of steam. Indy outraces him, but while looking back, his bike goes down a flight of stairs. Of course, an occasional bump or rut should be expected, and carefully adjusted for. These and other annoying obstacles are par for the course. The soldiers rush in and find the broken bike. While nearby, Indy finds only a dead end full of large barrels.
Damn! Over here! Hurry! This hound smells the fox going to ground. The hunt is near ended.
The German officer finds a young woman in a window.
Young mate, are you alone here? We are looking for a man. Maybe you have seen him. When did you last see a man? Drag her out.
Her door is kicked in and she is brought out, revealing that she is far along in her pregnancy.
It would seem she's been with a man at least once within the last 8 months, Commander.
Don't stand there like geese. Remember that you are soldiers under my command. Civilian spies will be executed, as will all members of any household which harbors such criminals.
After a quick search of her place, the soldiers move on. In the course of my travels, I've spent time in saunas, steam rooms, mineral springs. The young woman removes the lid of the barrel.
Get out, quickly, quickly. They might be coming back.
But bathing in olive oil was an entirely new experience. Indy emerges from within it. You speak English?
Sure. Papa, he's dead now. He had a little cargo plane. Business with lots of countries. I pick up languages. I am on Fale Capos. And you? British?
American. Dr. Jones. Barnett College. But Indy will do just fine. Look, you really helped me on Fale. Thanks. I'm grateful.
Now you got to get out of Greece, right? Good. I go with you.
She quickly packs a bag. Whoa. Wait a minute. What about your husband?
Him? Pa. Gone. Deserted army. He's a weasel. Real son of a bitch.
Yeah, you got a command of the language, all right.
Hey, you think I want to have my baby here? In land that is, occupied with Nazis?
Look, I don't know about this. Umfale pulls Indy by the hand.
Come, maybe we find a fishing boat.
The two would-be refugees look over the wreckage by the waterside. Fat chance. Everything's been strafed or bombed. Looks like the Germans have done their usual thorough job. Okay, you stay here. Keep out of sight. I'll go down there and see if maybe something can be salvaged.
Be careful.
In retrospect, I'd like to say that I'd had the feeling I was being watched. Maybe for weeks, and at this moment more than ever. But I can't. Indy picks his way among the broken hulls of boats. Nothing. Hindsight is golden. Maybe I should have known they were sneaking up on me. What? But I didn't. Suddenly he is dogpiled by cultists. Hey! These goons in their bathrobes were all over me, shrieking in frenzy, frothing at the mouth. My Turkish is rusty, but I caught some snatches.
There is it. Hope of the Empire.
He kicks one away as the others search him.
Jewel of salvation.
They find the dagger from the tomb in his satchel.
Blade of reconsecration. For the Dark One. For the Goddess.
It is raised above him. Shing! And Indy sees the symbol on the dagger's hilt is also on the cultist's arm.
For Hecate and the Fleece.
The cultist holding Indy is shot. Omphale holds a smoking gun.
Get away from him. Let him be. Now! I will kill you. I swear it.
And the cultists run away as she rushes to him.
Are you all right? Who are they?
Dunno. Not Nazis. Turks. They took the knife. Damn. I once promised myself that nobody would ever snatch a museum artifact from me again. I'm getting too old for this.
Look! A seaplane under camouflage netting.
The cultist plane takes off.
They're flying over Aegean. Northeast? Istanbul?
I'm going after them. I had a friend in Istanbul. He was a world-class authority on the Golden Fleece and all its lore. Was this coincidence? Serendipity? Fate? In the end, what did it matter?
How?
Omphale, I don't know how to thank you. You've saved me. Saved me twice. I'm sorry, but what I've got in mind is just too risky to drag a pregnant woman along. Indiana Jones leaves her behind in the town. He returns to the Germans' makeshift airstrip. Figured these boys would still be at the dig. Indy sneaks up on a mechanic and knocks him out with a wrench.
Intruder! Intruder!
The alerted guard is hit from behind as Indy ducks his wild shot. Omphale stands over him with a branch.
That's 3 times. This is getting to be a habit.
What are you doing here? Didn't I say...
I'm flying out of Greece.
She climbed onto a fighter plane. This is too dangerous. Get down from there.
And if you want to come with me, you better, how do you say, shake a foot.
Oh, cripes. Move over.
It's okay. I already got the stick.
Indy joins her in the cockpit, and they take off as the soldiers fire at the escaping plane. You can fly?
I told you, Papa had cargo plane. I sit on his lap.
We're in luck. No sign of pursuit. So far, so good.
You know, I am wondering, Indy, what kind of name is that? Indy.
It's short for Indiana.
Indiana? Why would parents name child Indiana? What were they thinking? Isn't that American province?
State. We call them states. Indiana is a nickname.
Stupid nickname. Look, there is seaplane.
Bingo. They can't match our speed. We'll catch up in a couple of... Suddenly, 3 fighter planes appear behind them and begin to fire their machine guns. Messerschmitts. Where did they come from? It's their advantage. See if you can get on top. Get above them. Omphale drives the plane into a dive. No. Are you nuts? I said get above. Oh, wait. This is better. Indy returns fire from the plane's turret gun, blowing up one of their pursuers. That was beautiful, Omphale. Bullets impact along their fuselage. Now do something else.
Hold on.
Omphale spins the plane, avoiding more fire. Your papa taught you how to barrel roll?
I am brotherless. He had no choice.
Indy fires again, hitting one of the Messerschmitt's wings. Perfect. I've crippled him. They're on a collision course. Keep your fingers crossed. The 2 remaining planes crash into each other. Bullseye.
We are not out of the trees yet. We're losing altitude.
As I've said before, hindsight is golden.
Fast!
As that smoking crate of sheet metal and bolts plummeted from the sky, I'd like to say that in my mind I was ruminating on all the tantalizing aspects of the mystery in which I was embroiled. That I was puzzling out the secrets of my fanatical assailants, their connection with the fabled Fleece and the dark goddess Hecate. Pull up! Pull up!
I'm trying.
We're heading straight into the Dardanelles.
Think we will die?
Yeah. That I was looking forward with eager anticipation to a reunion in Istanbul with an old friend who might plug the holes in my logic. Or that I was amused at the prospect of plunging into the Hellespont, the very spot where little Helle tumbled to her doom from the flying ram of the Golden Fleece as it hurtled toward its own destiny in ancient Colchis. I'd like to say that the irony of my predicament was not lost to me. But it was. To be continued. Do you have any control?
Control I got there too much ouzo. But you know, ouzo is like mother's milk to me.
Just don't hit the cliffs, or the rocks, or the water.
You shut down, or I make you fly, Indy.
Omphale veers the plane away from the cliffside.
Indy. Ha! Indy is stupid name.
She briefly touches down in the water. I should have known then that some great hand was at work. That's it! That's it! Omphale, you've done it! You put out the fire!
Of course, I am one tough cracker.
You mean tough cookie. Yes, Omphale, you are.
You bet.
The plane levels off, but I didn't care why I was still alive. Only that I was alive. Omphale, I don't know how you've nursed this crate this far. That's Istanbul, dead ahead.
You speak English good, Indy, but words you choose are bad.
Get us out of this in one piece and you can pick any words you want.
Hold on.
The plane splashes down near the shoreline. Istanbul, the Occident, the Orient, a nexus of history. A cornucopia of intrigues and antiquities. Indy helps Omphale out of the sinking plane.
Was good landing. We still live. But what now, Indy?
Look up an old friend, Omphale. Knowing the Dutchman, Don most likely had a finger in every pie. And hopefully an answer or two for me.
Indy, it is an astonishing coincidence that you should show up on my doorstep at this moment with such news. The sigils, the one on the stolen blade and the one on your assailant's arm, represent the expectant soul, its arms outstretched, intersecting descending salvation. The marks have two things in common, the cult of Hecate and the Golden Fleece.
That much I can guess. Look, Don, you've been studying the Fleece as long as I've known you. What's a myth got to do with this business?
Was the Ark of the Covenant a myth? Or the Holy Grail? Are you, like Indy, how do you say it, an Archaeopteryx, Mr. Van Regen?
The word's archaeologist, Omphale. Don is an antiques dealer, what you might call a gifted amateur.
Sometimes we amateurs stumble across bits of information the professionals have overlooked. Tell me, Indy, what do you know of Hecate?
Hecate, one of the names for the ancient goddess. She was symbolized by the crossroads, taught sorcery, was associated with death.
And life. She is also the mother, earth, fertility. It was Hecate, disguised as the shade of Nephele, who created a magical golden ram to save the children Phrixus and Hele, the same ram that was later sacrificed by the ancient Colchians. A huge serpent was supposed to have guarded the tree where they hung the fleece.
Don shows them a painting of the golden ram in flight.
The Golden Fleece, yes. Ageless, indestructible. I believe its mystical powers ensured victory to any empire that possessed it. When Jason stole the fleece and returned to Greece, the warlike Mycenaean civilization flourished. But through deceit and betrayal, the fleece eventually slipped away from the Greeks. Over the centuries, it passed to the Romans, the Byzantines, and finally into the hands of the Ottoman Empire. Then in the 16th century, something horrible occurred. Suleiman's successor, an indolent drunkard called Selim the Salt, became enraged at the crying of the youngest child in the harem,
and a depiction of an opulent throne room full of concubines.
He smothered the infant with the fleece of the ram.
Omphale looks at the book in horror, her hand on her own baby.
Ah! The Golden Fleece had been desecrated. It ceased to exert its mystical influence. After that, it was all downhill for the Ottoman Empire. The useless fleece was forgotten, probably chucked into some dusty storeroom in Topkapi Palace. And here it remains, Here in Istanbul, the crossroads of the world. I'm certain of it. I've spent years gathering information, trying to track it down, and I will obtain it. Nothing must stand between me and the golden fleece. Look at this.
Don shows Indy a photograph of the supposed fleece.
Taken in the 20s at an auction of extraneous odds and ends from the palace. I've accounted for every piece sold. Long hours identifying the objects, combing old shops in the city, patiently tracing each item to its current owner. Every piece, except this one.
A ram's fleece.
And I've learned I'm not the only one searching. The cult of Hecate wants it badly. What is this cult? An abomination to Hecate. A group of radical Turks displeased with the fate of their country. Ruthless young fanatics obsessed with witchcraft. They yearn for the old days, for the glory of the Ottomans. While the rest of the world is preoccupied with the war, they intend to restore the empire with the aid of the fleece.
But you said the fleece is desecrated. Useless.
Ah, yes, quite true. Unless it is reconsecrated in a ritual performed at the site of the golden ram's slaughter in Colchis. A ritual that requires a key component, the instrument of the ram's death, long rumored to have been buried with a certain Bronze Age king.
The knife from Atreus' tomb.
Indy, they let you do their work for them.
For once, Omphale insisted that she remain behind. Maybe she thought I'd be safe with Don looking after me. Maybe she was just tired. At any rate, I wasn't about to argue. We had to find that fleece before the cult beat us to it. Don had run into his share of dead ends. I had an idea. Don holds a flashlight while Indy rifles through a box of papers.
Indy, do you think this is wise?
Maybe something here will point us in the right direction.
But bribing an official in the Hall of Records, for God's sake. It's dangerous. The city is crawling with spies and counter-spies. It's a boiling pot.
I'm sure the government could care less about the transcript of a 20-year-old auction. Hold that light a little higher.
The government may not care, but you can wager anything the secret police are interested in us. The cult has people on the inside. I am known to them.
Hold on. What's this? Look familiar?
Yes, I recognize the description of the pieces. We've found it.
What's it say about the fleece? Is it listed?
Wait a moment. I don't see. Huh?
Men with guns rush into the room, already firing.
Emnet, what did I tell you? No one can be trusted.
Just shut up and move! Up the stairs, quick! Get to the roof!
Indy shoves over a shelf of boxes onto them. Indy, the door's locked!
Force it, damn it! An agent grabs his foot on the stairs, but Indy kicks him off. Break it open!
It won't budge.
You spend too much time in an armchair, Dan. One side. The agent aims his gun as Indy and Don race towards the building's edge.
Indy, we're running out of roof.
So what?
It's too steep. I'm slipping.
Me too. Okay, give me a second to think of something. Indy uncoils his whip in midair.
Ah, God! Indy, help!
All right. Keep your shirt on. It lashes onto a post. And Indy grabs Don's hand as he falls.
They're drawing a bead on us. We're sitting ducks.
What's he yelling? Bullets whiz through the air around them as Indy spots a fruit cart below.
He's telling his Confederates below to retrieve the document from our dead bodies.
Great. Just great. Guess there's no point in hanging around any longer. He lets go of the whip, and they drop.
Indy, no!
I hated losing my whip. It was almost a part of me. I never dreamed how it would return. Indy and Don land safely in the cart full of watermelons. And the horse it's yoked to takes off.
Stop, melon thief! Hey, I got it. Are you okay?
Aside from the seeds in my teeth. It seemed those Emniad boys really wanted that piece of paper I had in my pocket. The agents attacked the fruit sellers.
You idiots! You let them get away!
The two scholars hide out under a bridge. When we finally got a chance to study the auction invoice.
It's not here. Nothing. No mention of the police. But it's clearly there in my photograph. What can it mean, Indy?
Beats me. But maybe this gentleman has a clue.
Secretary of the auction. Mehmed Sapa. Well, I'll be damned.
We collected on Fale. At this point, it wasn't safe to leave her alone at the apartment. Then wound our way through the maze of merchant houses in the Bioglu district. Turned out this Mehmed Sarper, who recorded the transactions of an auction a generation back, was known to Don.
That's his shop. Deals a lot of old junk. I've been there dozens of times and never had the slightest idea he could be of help.
Maybe. Let's find out.
Hello, Mehmed.
Don Van Rooyen, my comrade from the rainy north. Where have you been these many moons? I have missed our talks.
I want to talk now, Mehmed, about something that happened 20 years ago.
20 years ago is a long time, my friend. 20 years ago, all this, these antiques, was a mere sideline for me. 20 years ago, I was going to be a famous painter. I would set the world afire. Ha!
Indiana Jones notices a portrait on the wall.
And now look at me. The nights and days are a hasty pageant that flies on wings of quicksilver. I am a dusty old man, crumbling among his dusty old objects.
Think back. You were secretary at an auction. Trivial pieces from the Empire.
There were so many auctions in those days. Veils of time obscure the memory.
This particular auction included an item, a fleece, a ram's fleece. Please, this is important.
Do you know what? This is funny. I know exactly of which you speak. I remember very well.
Where is it? What happened to the fleece? Where did it go?
Nowhere. It went unsold. No one wanted to buy such a moth-eaten old thing. I took it home with me. That is why I remember.
Indy gasps, carefully taking the painting down.
I used the backside for a canvas, for a beautiful portrait. There it hangs.
He gives Don a huge grin.
And that is the kind of painter Allah made me. For still, after all this time, all these long years, no one wants to buy.
They both shove handfuls of money into Mehmed's face.
Huh?
Back at Don's home, the ancient treasure is laid out on a table. Our best bet was to go into hiding with the thing, figure out a way to deal with the cult. But Don insisted we return briefly to his apartment. There were books he needed, and besides, he wanted to make sure.
The golden fleece.
We've tried burning it, lacerating it, and it resists all our attempts. It is indestructible. It's the real thing. An unbelievable find. I'm trembling. Don pops the cork on a bottle of champagne.
We must celebrate.
Don, this isn't the time. The cult is on to us. We should...
Nonsense. There's always time for champagne. We must toast this spectacular discovery.
As he pours it into 3 glasses, 2 small pills also fall from his hand.
Oh, Indy, I am so happy for you.
Omphale kisses Indy with joy. The baby kicked. That feels so weird.
You're weird. Weird is your name. Indy. Pa. Let's drink to the golden fleece. Imagine the stuff of mythology. Tangible. Actual. Mine.
Yours? Now, wait a minute, Don. It's got to go to a museum or university, safely out of the reach of... Don shoves Indy onto a couch.
Shut up and sit down. Oh.
Omphale slumps down next to him.
What's the matter, Indy? Having trouble moving? A simple paralytic, that's all. Nothing to worry about. It's against my better judgment, but I won't kill you. You and your headstrong lady will recover. But by that time, I'll be long gone. With the fleece. I spoke of coincidence. What a silly notion. Nothing is coincidence. Everything is directed. These events, every weave in the web of the fates, has been for a purpose. The goddess has given the fleece to me. The mother will protect me. I'll bide my time. The cult of Hecate will come to see the sense of the design. The sacrificial blade will also pass into my hands. And then, gods only know. But I see you two are beyond the point of comprehension. I can only offer you my heartfelt thanks, Indy.
Darkness overtakes them as Don takes his leave with the fleece. How long were we out? Who knows? Too long.
I feel sick.
Indy struggles to his feet.
That idiot. Got to catch him. I knew it was hopeless. We stumbled down those stairs, hoping to find... what? Surely not Don. He'd had too much of a head start. But find him we did. They see Don's corpse at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh, the cult!
Strangled with my whip. You fool. Indy retrieves his whip. They've got the blade and the fleece now. Already on their way to Colchi's to invoke the goddess, no doubt.
What they are doing is wrong. We will follow. We'll stop them.
No, Fale. I'll go. You can't come with me this time. I'm putting my foot down. I still don't know who was more stubborn, Fale or the mules she used. I ought to have my head examined. Indiana Jones and Omphale's path from Istanbul to Colchis is shown as a red line across the map, which mirrors Jason's journey to reach the Golden Fleece. I do know she was the tougher of the three. While crossing a rope bridge, one of the mules falls through, and Indy narrowly saves Omphale from following after it. Don't move, and don't let go! Tougher than most men I've met, and I've met a few. Up there somewhere lies ancient Colchis. They start up a rocky mountain path, soon meeting an old man coming down. If we're on the right track, the locals are going to have some hint. This old-timer might know something. Hecate? Her valley is not far. Later. These runes have been here for millennia. This is the way. The old man was right.
I am feeling shadows on my heart here.
As Indy and Omphale crest the next hill, the sky erupts into a chaotic windstorm.
Indy?
Stick close. There are old powers at work here.
Sweet Madonna!
My God! Soon they find themselves trudging through deep snow against the harsh wind.
Indy, it is still spring! How can this be?
The fleece was desecrated. Its valley is cursed. With that twisted cult trying to reconsecrate the fleece, there's no telling what forces will be set loose.
Oh,
Did you hear something?
no, Indy. I hear only the howl of the wind. Ah!
Listen. It was a sound that even at its quietest raised the hackles on the back of my neck. Made my heart pound, and my skin want to crawl right off my bones. Indy sees the cultist ahead, chanting while stabbing the king's dagger into the golden fleece hung on a tree, and he starts towards them. Even over the storm, it wasn't hard to ferret out. Omphale did all she could by herself.
Something's wrong! Ah!
Suddenly, Omphale collapses as she goes into labor. But the time came when she needed me.
Indy!
Damn! I could hear the terror in her voice, but I was busy trying to save the world. I had no choice. I couldn't abandon her.
Indy!
I'm coming! Indy turns back, but the cultists have noticed him, and two approach. I'm here, Omphale.
Baby is not right. It's turned.
The kid wanted out, and it needed my help. I didn't have time to argue the sanctity of motherhood with a couple of ghouls. Indy socks a cultist in the face hard enough to knock his head into the one behind him. So I tried to make my full intentions convincing. They back off, leaving him to tend to the wailing woman. Omphale needed a miracle. God knows she deserved one. He lays his jacket down to catch the baby. Okay, I'm going to turn the baby. Omphale, hang on. Hecate, enraged with centuries of avarice and abuse, conspired with elemental nature. The ritual unleashes a bolt of power from the earth, leaping into the sky. Delivered of fire by its agent, air, Omphale's wails are lost in the howling wind. Channeled from earth through frozen water, the cultists run as the ground bursts open and gave birth to twin powers. The Elder Fraternal was the goddess's servant, released. and a gigantic dragon emerges from the earth. The biggest snake I'd ever seen. Stunted limbs dangle uselessly from its torso. The protector of the Fleece, back from the hell Jason must have sent it to millennia ago. Thinking back on it, the second birth was no less miraculous than its twins. He's out. It's a healthy, strapping boy, Umfale. Just let me cut and tie the cord. For the life of me, I still don't know why I did what I did next.
Indy!
Call it the hand of Hecate. Call it weird. It was the only thing that made sense. Somehow. Indiana Jones turns to face the dragon and lifts Umfale's newborn baby up to the sky in supplication. Oh great mother, honor this purity, this innocence, this child. Take back what is yours. The dragon rears up and hisses as the sky cracks open above it. A vortex in the wind becomes a portal into the beyond, and the goddess Hecate descends from it, crushing the dragon beneath her heel. None of the cult survived her wrath. Bolts of power flash from her eyes and incinerate the cultists. As the dragon withers and bursts into flame. Indy and Umfale shield their eyes. Even though the Fleece was reconsecrated, its pure innocence restored. The golden fleece gleams, shining with brilliant light. Hecate's power finds the golden fleece and it rises, transforming into a golden ram. And the great mother, giver of all life, protector of the innocent, that which is immortal. The ram looks at Indy and smiles. Took back what was hers. Hecate beams, her arms wide open as the golden ram flies up to her. And they return to the realm of the gods through the closing portal. Umfale rides the mule, holding her baby, as they make their way back down the mountain.
I know what I will name him.
Ah, shucks. Don't tell me. You're going to name him after me. That's really sweet.
No, not Indiana. Nikos. Nikos Kapos. India's stupid name.
Peace and natural harmony have returned to the valley, and it is filled with life once more. The end. And now, an afterword from the writers about the creation of this story and its connections to actual history and mythology. A mother's love is central to the myth of the Golden Fleece. Even after her death, the love of Nephele, wife of Athamas, for her son Phrixus and daughter Hele was so great that she saved them from the hatred of their stepmother, Ino. The shade of Nephele sent a flying ram with golden fleece to carry her children to safety. But as the magic ram crossed the strait between Europe and Asia, Hele fell. Thereafter, this point of land was called Hellespont. Phrixus survived and continued safely to Colchis, where he sacrificed the ram to thank the gods. Its golden fleece was hung on a tree in a sacred grove and guarded by a sleeping dragon. It remained there until the coming of Jason and the Argonauts. Jason invoked the goddess of Hecate to witness his proposal of marriage to her priestess Medea, princess of Colchis. Medea in turn provided Jason with the magic charms necessary to protect him as he earned the right to carry away the fleece. Within the context of our Indiana Jones story, we chose to emphasize the mother/life cycle/Hecate as the maternal wellspring from which the golden fleece drew its potency. She was more ancient than Zeus and the only Titan to retain power after the overthrow of her father Cronus. The Romans Diana and the Greeks Artemis both contained attributes of the more ancient Hecate. Another name for this goddess was Trivia, literally 3 ways. She was 3 bodies and 3 heads. We constructed our story's sigil from this bit of arcana, the fork being a symbol of choice between dualities. According to the Book of Signs by Rudolf Koch, a wonderfully seminal book for Jungians or graphic artists, an upreaching fork represents the expectant soul, open and affirming. The inverted fork expresses salvation descending from above and spreading over the world below. A synthesis of these two forms would then represent an in-process act of redemption. That the fictional cult of Hecate has lost the meaning is central to their corruption and villainy. The ancient prehistory of the mother out of which flowed the symbol of Hecate always represented a positive affirmation of life, even when shrouded in bewildering mystery. Full moons, lunar cycles, fertility, and the underworld come forth, the hidden made manifest, the wisdom of nature, healing. All of these and more are associated with the supreme manifestation of motherhood. We extended this notion to try and give Indy in typical Jonesian mythos one of the strongest and sturdiest female partners to date. Omphale, by the way, was the name of the queen of Lydia. To expiate an unwitting murder, Hercules served her as handmaiden for 3 years. Omphale in turn wore his lion's skin. Regenerative strength and natural resiliency, even when veiled or forgotten, are always inseparable components of the life force. We wanted Indy to reawaken Hecate to her ancient creed, and, as we played it, Hecate wanted him to as well, weaving subtle strands within the skein of our story so that he would. After researching Jason's journey to find the Fleece, we thought it would be interesting if Indy followed the same route, that the primary ancient locations have become 20th century in name and circumstance are much more of the great fun of an Indiana Jones adventure. Although the cult of Hecate is a purely fictitious creation on our part, Emniyet, the Turkish secret police, is not. Particularly during the war years in Istanbul, Emniyet was everywhere, maintaining meticulous records of the activities of foreign residents and tourists in the city. The Turkish government had a good reason for keeping precise tabs on the various international personnel in the country. It wanted, at any cost, to avoid involvement in World War II. World War I had been a horrendous experience for Turkey. Millions had died for what seemed no good purpose. The country was left without stockpiled supplies. Military equipment had been rendered ineffective by the forward thrust of other nations' technologies. Now, with the continent once more in the throes of all-out aggression, the Turks felt they could not afford to take sides. Yet their strategic location of Istanbul as a bridge between Europe and Asia was virtually important to all the players in the game. The British and Americans wanted bases in Turkey that could be used in the liberation of the Nazi-held Balkans. Germany saw it as the spot from which forays into Russia and the Middle East might be launched. Russia, who during the course of the preceding century had fought a dozen wars with Turkey, sought Istanbul and its straits in order to control the Black Sea and the waterways into the Mediterranean. Throughout the war, the Turks maintained cordial relationships with these nations, performing a brilliant high-wire balancing act of international diplomacy. Istanbul, under the steady, watchful eye of Emniyet, became a hotbed of intrigue. Secret agents, double agents, triple agents, even quadruple agents abounded. Defectors came ready to betray their homelands. Saboteurs awaited orders or opportunities. An occasional assassination was a part of the routine. Forged documents were a commonplace black market item. Phony information was procured for top dollar. And all while British, German, and Russian ambassadors puffed their cigars and rubbed shoulders at the city's swankiest exotic nightclubs. For an entertaining and informative account of World War II Istanbul, we recommend trotting down to your local library and digging up a copy of Istanbul Intrigues, a true-life Casablanca by Barry Rubin, published by McGraw-Hill. It's well worth the read, as Indy doggedly retraced Jason's ancient route from Greece to the Caucasus Mountains. Istanbul seemed like the perfect point to have him catch his breath, and lose it again. Although space restrictions didn't allow us to fully embroil him in the milieu of the city, we trust he found his stay rewarding. Who knows? Perhaps he'll return again someday. Pat and Dave. Well, I certainly hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you'll come back for another adventure, as there's 2 or 3 more Indiana Jones comics I had my eye on when choosing this one. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for the 3rd and final entry in my series of Indiana Jones comics, Indiana Jones and the Tomb of the Gods, published in 2008. While published as part of the wave of merchandise accompanying Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Tomb of the Gods has nothing to do with the film and is set during Indy's prime in 1936. 1/3 of an ancient stone disc has been unearthed, setting the Nazis in search of the other 2 parts, and the unknown power, legend says, the stone key unlocks. Indy rescues the professor hiding the next piece by swinging across a high-rise construction site, although the scholar, once he has passed on his duty to Indy, chooses his own end. The disc piece is taken by our story's femme fatale before he can leave the building though, while disguised as a French maid. She is a competing treasure hunter, and she and Indy will meet again. But first, he's off with his old friend Marcus Brody to Tibet to seek out the academic holding the final piece of the ancient, possibly even prehistoric puzzle. But the power held behind that gate is also prophecy to end the world. So for once in Indiana Jones's long career, the only right thing to do may be to not discover it. After an encounter with some sharks and the lady treasure hunter and a dog sled chase across the tundra, both showing us Indy in exciting situations the movies never got around to, the quest ends deep underneath the ice in northern Siberia in a place truly never explored before by humans, if it was built by humans at all. To me, it's alright that this was the only Dark Horse series to come out with Crystal Skull, because it is very good, perhaps even the best of them all. In fact, it almost borders on fan service, the amount of classic indie action they managed to pack into one story. I'll leave that judgment for you to make as we go along. I do think at least this was a different era than when the 90s comics were published. They were selling new and varied adventures to an existing and strong fan base familiar with the movies, the same as many action movies through the decade called back to Indiana Jones and continued the genre of adventure films, even resulting in a small boom of pulp hero movies such as Dick Tracy, The Shadow, The Rocketeer, and The Phantom. And I would say culminating in The Mummy in 1999, perhaps Indy's clearest successor, which would then spark its own trend towards more horror and monsters in the adventure genre, leading soon to Peter Jackson's King Kong. As such, this comic's version of Indiana Jones is polished and refined for maximum appeal to reignite interest in that genre and the movies, and that's why I think he hits so many high notes in this tale. He uses the whip more often than in anything else I've seen outside of video games, for example. The perilous situations presented are second to none in terms of the danger to Indy. He has tons of great character moments. The artifact and power are some of the oldest ever seen in the series, perhaps even predating recorded history. And his female companion seems to check every box in the Indy girl book, being beautiful, clever, ambitious, resourceful, and even treacherous yet redeemable. I also love the art in this book. The coloring especially is an improvement over 90s standards, and the other comics published at the same time seem more aimed at kids and adopted more of a webcomic or modern cartoon style of art than trying to draw Harrison on the page as this book does. In any case though, it's fair to say that Tomb of the Gods invites you to come along for an adventure into the imagination like no other, with the one and only Indiana Jones. Siberia, 1931. North of the city of Norilsk. Deep underground in a mine, a bucket is raised from a well.
My God! We must leave now. If we are discovered, you've been paid enough for this. You can wait another couple of minutes. Your money will not compensate for what will be done to me if we are found. I assure you, Mr. Milberg. Stalin values his diamond mines.
If we're correct, old boy, there's far more value here than diamonds.
Hurry up, Francis. The goddamn thing's heavier than hell.
The weight of gravitas, hey O'Brien? Protruding from the rocks is a large curved stone engraved with symbols.
Gentlemen, I believe we have just made history.
A frog leaps over a log surrounded by plants, and a snake soon pursues it.
Psst. He is not armed. Restrain him.
Hey, get your hands! Hey! Indiana Jones is grabbed by two men and pushed down towards the snake.
Psst. Tell me who you are and why you are here. Quickly, before I ask them to hurt you.
I'm a college professor.
Wrong answer.
New York, 1936. The scene is not in the jungle, but rather a book-filled apartment with just a small habitat of the jungle housing the snake and some plants.
Where's Henrik Melberg, Mr.
Dr. Jones. I don't know.
Then why are you in his home? Why do you have a key allowing you to enter whenever you please?
Ow. I've never met Melberg. I received a letter with a key attached asking me to meet him here on a matter of the utmost importance. If you're aware of what that is, you know more than I do.
Yes, I'm sure I do. But let's find out, just in case. Our mutual friend is obviously a slave to knowledge, Dr. Jones. This apartment is filled with rare books, ancient pieces. It is a hymn to the past, with just one glorious, deadly example of the present.
Indy's head is shoved over the snake's case, and it rears up to greet him.
This is a king cobra, Dr. Jones, the world's largest venomous snake. It is unlike the rest of its species in one important aspect. It mainly eats other snakes.
Less snakes. I can live with that.
Perhaps Melberg keeps it as a symbol of history's true nature. The strongest surviving off the meat of the weak.
You're a load of fun at parties, I can tell.
There's Henrik Melberg, Dr. Jones. There's his piece of the key. I strongly suggest you tell me now.
A maid enters, and everyone looks at her.
Huh? Housekeeping?
We're busy now, practicing for play. But old bricked. Very good. Very physical. You come back later.
Nice, Snaky. Nice. Indy ducks just as the snake strikes. And it sinks its fangs into the neck of the man holding him. He swings his satchel into one thug, knocking him into another and making them drop their guns.
Stop him!
Indy punches a big guy.
You certainly hit like a college professor.
Who then throws him through a wall covered in books. I might need an explanation here.
It is a false wall for false knowledge, and it hides a great secret.
Behind the wall hides an old man and part of a stone disc on a pedestal.
Dr. Jones, I am Henrik Melberg.
What period is this from? What is this? He gravely picks it up.
The beginning and the end.
I love a positive attitude. Come on, does corridor go anywhere? Bullets impact on the wall as they run down a passage to a ladder.
Yes, I had it built especially for just such an eventuality. I knew someone would eventually come looking for me.
And these guys are?
They are led by Dr. Friedrich von Hassel, and they are the Ahnenerbe, the ancestral heritage branch of the SS, dedicated to archaeology surrounding the superiority of the Aryan race and the occult. If they are here, I can only assume that they already have Marwell O'Brien's third of the key.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but you can tell me all about it once we've shaken them off. After climbing it, Indy opens a hatch to the roof. I know I shouldn't, considering my line of work, but I really hate secret passageways. They never lead anywhere good. Indy helps Professor Melberg up. Across from their roof is another building with roof access, but between them and it is a high-rise building still under construction, and beyond them both lies the skyline of New York City, filled with the prop plane aviators of the day.
Manhattan, the architectural pinnacle of Western society's development. Dr. Jones, in many ways, this is the very reason I contacted you. All this could be swept away.
Now's probably not the best time. The pursuing Nazis open fire again, giving them little choice, so Indy and the professor begin carefully balancing themselves as they cross the grid of I-beams. I hope you've got a head for heights, Henrik.
Dr. Jones, there are 3 pieces of this artifact. They must not gain them all. I had not heard from Marwell O'Brien, and feared that the Ahnenerbe had his piece and were coming for me. I wrote to you as a last resort. I have read of your work. I thought that you might understand.
Oof. Indy stops them when they reach a large gap before the next beam.
History and antiquarianism are our very essence, Dr. Jones. Academia and archaeology are lifeblood.
He unbuckles his satchel. Yeah, you're right. Indiana Jones takes out his trademark bullwhip and lashes it to a beam above them. I'm a bookworm. Professor Melberg hangs on for dear life as Indy swings them across the gap. Henrik and Indy continue on their way as the Germans catch up and ready their weapons.
If we fire and they fall, we lose the key. What do we do? We ensure that our aim is exact.
Von Hassel fires with precision, catching Professor Melberg in the back, and making the stone piece drop onto the beam below as he loses his balance.
Go back, head down several floors and find the way across into the other tower to get them on the other side.
Yes, sir.
All that matters is the key, gentlemen.
Huh?
Hang on! Indy sees it as he kneels down to grab Henrik's arm, who grabs his sleeve.
Listen to me, Dr. Jones.
You're slipping, Henrik.
It's imperative that you listen to me. They must not have it. Do you understand? We each took one section for safety. If they have O'Brien's, they still need my piece and Beresford Hope's. He hid his section in Tibet. They need all 3 pieces to open it.
Open what? Open what, Henrik?
In your eyes, I can see it. The desire. The same desire that we had. Beware, Dr. Jones. Some mysteries are best left undiscovered.
With tears in his eyes, Henrik lets go. Indy is haunted by the look of pure terror on his face as he falls. He picks up the stone piece. Okay, Henrik. You've got me. And makes it to the other building, heading down the stairs.
Get in! Get in!
The elevator! He's heading for the elevator!
Bullets hit the elevator doors as they close behind Indy's foot. He holds the artifact in his whip awkwardly, sharing the elevator with the maid. I guess you're wondering.
I like the whip.
It's for archaeological purposes. Really?
Yeah? So's this.
She pulls a pistol from her cart. You're with them?
I'm with myself. Now, why don't you hand me Melberg's third of the key?
Indy lays down the stone.
Good choice, Professor Jones.
It's Dr. Jones, actually.
Yeah? Then why don't you show me your stethoscope? Turn around. Hands on your head.
And you are?
A seeker of artifacts, just like you, with one small difference.
What would that be?
I actually get what I'm after.
She knocks Indy out with the butt of the gun.
Sleep tight, Professor.
He awakens to see several policemen with their own guns drawn. Hi. Later, back at Marshall College.
I'm very relieved that they relieved you and released you so quickly.
That's nice to hear.
Archaeology post can be a devil to fill, you know.
I've never seen anything like it, Marcus. The markings, unknown hieroglyphics, and it was old. Older than anything we know.
Paleolithic.
No, it seemed older, Marcus.
Oh, come now, Indy.
I know what I'm saying. It was older. Marcus gives Indy a skeptical look. It looked like 1/3 of a circular object. You put the 3 parts together, it makes a key, and it opens something.
And if the girl was working for the Nazis, they had 2 parts.
They only need Beresford Hope's section. That's what Melberg said. Melberg wrote to me, Marcus. He knew that this would be perfect for my particular skills, and he let go and fell after he'd passed the baton. I've got to go after it.
I knew Francis Beresford Hope back in Oxford. Sir Francis now, I believe. It'll be good to see him again.
I don't know, Marcus. This could get a little dangerous, and it gets very cold in Tibet.
Come now, Indy. A little field trip? It'll be fun.
A red line on the map shows Indiana Jones and Marcus Brody's path to Nepal, Tibet, by airplane. Tibet. The 2 scholars make their way up a mountain. You okay?
When, exactly, did Tibet turn into a tropical climate? You said it gets cold in Tibet.
It does. They get sunny days too, though. First rule of traveling, Marcus. You gotta dress right.
Yes. You're quite the clothes horse, Indiana.
You'll sweat less if you stop talking. Indy gives Marcus a hand up, while they are watched by a silent figure in a cave with a rifle. The guy I paid in Lhasa said this is where the crazy Englishman lives. He heads into the city to buy ammo, yak meat, and lots of Chang, the local beer.
The diet of champions. Doesn't really look like the home of an English aristocrat, or smell like one.
Hold on a second. Once inside the cave, Indy lights a torch. They both look around at the walls, and their expressions turn to shock and dismay. Scrawled all over the cave walls are strange symbols matching those on the disc pieces. The questions, the map, and the key opens what? And other disturbing images, such as what appear to be tentacles extending out from a deep hole.
My God. I knew Beresford Hope. He liked to drink, yes, but he was perfectly sane. This, however, is the work of a madman.
Suddenly, a lit bundle of dynamite is thrown into the cave.
I apologize for the madman comment. I can see that it may have caused offense.
And it explodes. To be continued. Tibet.
We surrender.
Marcus walks out from the dust from the blast, waving a white handkerchief.
Please, my friend is badly hurt.
A man dressed like a monk holds a rifle on him.
Good. You're about to join him.
Indy's whip cracks out from within the dust cloud. It wraps around the rifle, which fires wild as Indy yanks it away. The man goes for his pistol, but Indy beats him to the draw. Don't. He hands his gun to Marcus. If he moves, shoot him, with the thin end.
Yes.
You blew my hat off. Indy puts his hat back on. I hate that. And congratulations, you blew the hell out of the cave, too.
The carvings?
Gone. Most of them. We would have been too if it wasn't for some heavy boulders to dive behind.
You Nazi bastard will never find it now. So just kill me and go home, eh?
We sound German to you, kid?
My dear boy, we came here to try and stop the Nazis. Henrik Melberg sent us. We're looking for a man called Beresford Hope.
Well, you found him.
You aged extremely well, Francis.
Despite your appearance as an upper-class English accent, Oxford educated, right? So I'm guessing you're his son. What's your name? And where's the old man?
I'm Alex. And my father died 11 months ago.
And you're left sleeping in a cave at the top of the world, guarding the secret in his place.
How did he die? There were many things that can kill you up here. The cold, the animals, bandits. And he was always ranting about how local spies would sell him out to the Nazis eventually. But madness and alcohol were more than enough to kill Sir Francis Beresford Hope. I came here 2 years ago to try to discover why my father had abandoned his affluent life and family to live like a madman in a cave. Imagine my surprise when I eventually found him and discovered that he was a madman living in a cave, hiding a secret that I could not leave unguarded. Bandits and spies.
Huh? Indy turns to Marcus.
Bandits and spies.
He sees a line of armed men on horseback high up on a ridge. Run! Run! Indy grabs both of the others and starts them running in the other direction, none of them noticing one carving which survived the blast. An image of a door opening, and the phrase, "The end of all things." Waiting serenely with the plane is Indy's snake-loving pilot friend, Jock.
I am at peace.
Jock!
I am at peace like a big shiny-headed Tibetan monk.
Start the engines!
Haven't felt this relaxed in years.
Jock!
It's the fresh air, I'm telling you.
Start the engines! Finally, he hears Indy's voice approaching and turns to look.
Huh?
He sees Indy, Marcus, and Alex running for the plane before a swarm of horsemen chasing them. Start the engines, Jock!
Huh. Always the same with this guy.
Jock starts the plane rolling and the propellers spinning, and soon they near the door. Jump, Marcus!
I'm not quite as young as I used to be, Indy. Hey!
Indy helps Marcus into the plane as one of the attackers reaches for him, with Alex lagging behind. Jock sees a large rock in their path.
That's kinda big. I must have missed that when we landed.
A wheel hits it, and all 4 people are bounced into the plane.
Whoa! You're in! Fasten your seatbelts! End of the runway's coming up! We are out of here!
Great.
Thank heavens!
Good riddance.
Help!
Hello?
Yeah, that'd be right. Now the engine's cut out. You know that feeling of peace I was talking about? The plane goes over the edge of a cliff.
Ah!
Everyone in the back hits the ceiling.
Ah!
Start the engines! With incisive advice like that, I can see why he's a college professor. Come on! Jock flips a switch as they nosedive, and finally the engines spring back to life. The plane swoops upward, narrowly clearing the rocks. The attacking raider is tossed out of the plane, and a moment later his parachute deploys. Crap, we didn't get the third part of the key.
Well, my father's last words were, "Never leave it unguarded."
Lucky for you, I listened to him for once. Alex presents the final piece of the key to them.
Indy, my God.
You see, Marcus? It's like nothing we've ever studied before. The markings, the hieroglyphs.
And this strong line here, it almost looks like it's a map of the North Siberian coast.
X never marks the spot, kid. Treasure maps? They're from children's stories. We deal in knowledge.
Knowledge? Well then, let me tell you what I know. My father, Henrik Melberg, and Marwell O'Brien found something up in northern Siberia. He would never tell me what. They also found this key. The key split into 3 pieces. Fate, perhaps.
So they each took one section and guarded them in different parts of the globe. That way the map could not be completed. They knew that whatever's up there in Siberia, it is far too dangerous to ever be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. I also know that my father was driven insane by their discovery. Sometimes knowledge can be a terrible thing. What if the Nazis had the other 2 parts of the key? Could that take them to whatever your father and the others discovered? If X marks the spot, you mean? It could get them dangerously close. Well then, I guess we'll just have to beat them to it. A red line on the map shows their path across Asia from Tibet to Shanghai, China. Indy talks to a man at the docks and secures them all passage on a Russian freighter to Siberia. However, he is observed by a spy and reported to a man in a suit.
I'm worried, Indy.
You're not going to give me this speech, are you, Marcus? Relax, you're not even coming. Someone needs to stay here and coordinate all this with the university, and coordinating's your thing. This is mine.
Yes, you've hardly emerged from this room since we arrived here.
I've seen Shanghai before. This is new.
Indiana.
Look, no one's ever seen anything like this before, Marcus. Not Abner, not Forrestal, no one. We've always studied the history of the world, but this is a new history, and we can be the ones to write it. Indiana Jones takes off his glasses and looks gravely at Marcus, who returns the look while giving him his satchel. Indy picks up the dynamite sticking out of it. Marcus, you can't be serious. Whatever that key opens, one can only presume it was shut for a very good reason. You're not going up there to bring this one back, Indy. Whatever it is, if it's as dangerous as Alex says, and the Nazis are close, you're going there to destroy it. That's not what we do, Marcus. We uncover secrets. We increase knowledge and understanding. We bring history to life. But we don't write it. This isn't about fortune and glory. Please, Indy. He rubs his head, thinking it over. Marcus waves goodbye as the ship sets sail.
Blast.
You sure about this? We've got to make port in Japan, heading north. Could drop you off there.
I've been living in a cave eating yak meat for 2 years, Dr. Jones. I even became a Buddhist monk for a while. But the fashion sense didn't really take. And for all that time, I've done little else but study those markings. So I'll be buggered if I'm going to let a bunch of Nazis get their hands on it now. Besides, I really want to know what's hidden up there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. A red line on the map traces the ship's path over the Pacific Ocean, past the coast of Japan. Hey, Alex, I've been looking at these underside hieroglyphs again, and I think you might be wrong about the... Indy is greeted by a gun as he heads onto the deck. Or you could be right. Either way. It is held by Janice, who has arrived with the Nazis.
Hey, Professor. I like this outfit better than the college tweed. But I gotta ask, is there a lot of call for lion tamers in the middle of the Pacific? Geography may not be your strong suit.
You?
Yep, me. Points for observation.
I thought you weren't with them.
I wasn't, but they made me a hell of an offer. And a girl's gotta eat caviar, right?
Miss Janice Lewa has been helping us study the other 2 parts of the key, Dr. Jones. And now we have all 3. Search his quarters. Find it.
How'd you get on board, Von Hassel?
Our Fuhrer has eyes and ears in every port, Dr. Jones. And the ship's captain and his crew can be bought for the right price.
Von Hassel draws his own pistol.
You should have paid attention back in Japan. After all, it behooves an expedition leader to be aware of what is being loaded onto his ship. Some illicit cargo can be highly dangerous.
So then, what to do with you?
Indy is set adrift on a small boat.
Land is several days away. If you had any oars, that is.
That's what I like about you people. Great sense of humor.
Come now, Dr. Jones, let's not make this personal. This, after all, is a quest for knowledge, something I'm sure that you respect. It is unfortunate, now that we have the key, the map, and Mr. Beresford Hope to guide us, you have no more knowledge to give. And sadly, the same goes for Miss Lewa.
Huh?
Von Hassel extends a blade from his sleeve and slices Janice's arm open. She falls in the water, and Indy dives in after her. It's okay. I've got you. It's okay. It's not okay. Really not okay. Von Hassel opens fire on the dinghy, filling the wood with holes. What did the boat ever do to you?
Miss Leroy seems to be bleeding quite badly. This is the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Jones. Do you know how many sharks call this part of the world home? History is like the shark. It has no mercy and moves ever forward. As must we. Auf Wiedersehen, Dr. Jones. It appears I have a date to keep with destiny.
Indy ties a tourniquet on Janice's arm as the ship steams away. Night falls, and their situation has not improved. Crap. By next morning, they have been forced to capsize the boat to keep it afloat as they cling to the hull. You awake?
Uh-huh.
How's the bleeding?
I think tying it off helped it.
Yeah? Looks like we got lucky. Unbeknownst to them, a group of sharks have arrived in the water deep beneath the boat, following the blood trail. To be continued. Pacific Ocean, north of Japan. Indiana Jones fends off the sharks with his whip, cracking it at their exposed fins while balancing on the boat. Well, I've had better days. Janice covers his back with a wooden plank.
We get out of this, and every meal's going to be shark fin soup from now on. I'm going to be a one-woman seafood genocide, I swear.
All that money the Nazis gave you for Melberg's third of the key? That'll pay a few restaurant bills. You signed a contract for that, Janice? Because you may want to take another look at the terms and conditions.
I tell you what, Jones. You can take the moral high ground when we're actually on some damn high ground, okay? Then, if you've still got both your legs, you can kick me hard on the ass. How's that?
Janice!
What?
Suddenly a hammerhead shark burst from the water behind her. Janice smacks it with her board.
You got anything else you want to say to me, Professor? I'd advise you to pick your words real careful.
Take your shirt off. Indy starts taking off his own shirt.
The strangest thing. I could have sworn you just said.
Come on, come on!
And now he's shouting at me. You academics have really got to get out more. Meet more women.
Just hope this isn't waterlogged and will still light. He holds his lighter to it. Shh. Yes.
So, the 100 sharks in the open ocean aren't enough for you? You want to set fire to us too? That's brilliant. You got troubles at home or something, Jones?
If we start a fire, there'll be smoke. If any planes or ships are in the area, they'll see the smoke and come rescue us. It's the only hope we have, Janice. Now do as I say, and give me your shirt! Indy grabs her shirt and tries to tear it off. Janice decks him. Big fin. Really big fin. Great white-sized fin. Janice balls up her shirt.
Come on, Jones. You gonna light this thing or not?
More sharks circle the boat as smoke trails into the sky.
Fire's going out.
Yep.
Any other brilliant ideas, Professor?
Nope.
Never thought I'd go like this.
I could shoot you if you like.
You've had a gun all this time?
Nah. Von Hassel took it back on the ship. I'm just kidding you.
Ain't you the regular Jack Benny?
Go out with a laugh, that's what I say.
There are other things I'd rather do with my last few moments.
Oh yeah? And what might they be?
Come here, and I'll show you, Professor.
Just as they are about to kiss, the great white shark explodes up through the boat, smashing it to pieces. Indy surfaces first. Janice, you okay? Janice!
I'm here. Indy.
I know, honey. He puts on his floating hat as the giant fin heads straight for them. Stay behind me. Just before it strikes, a harpoon pierces its side. And the huge shark is yanked away from them. The other sharks scatter, swimming away from the newly arrived ship.
Not that I'm complaining about the rescue or anything, but who is that? And why's he wearing that hat?
He may not be the best at working out the right outfits for the climate he's in, but that is Marcus Brody of Marshall College. He's my friend.
Indy and Janice are soon brought on board.
I couldn't bear to see you leave the way you did, and I became convinced that you might need help, so I hired this whaling ship to follow you north. Luckily, we saw the smoke. What on earth happened, Indy?
Marcus, thank you.
Indy hugs his friend.
Oof, you're welcome.
Marcus, can I ask you something personal?
Of course, Indy.
Why are you wearing that hat?
We're heading north up the Bering Strait. It's Arctic weather, I thought.
We're not that far north yet.
Well, yes, but one never knows when the weather might change.
They've got the key, Marcus. All 3 parts of it. So they had the entire map.
The Nazis?
Von Hassel, the Ahnenerbe. They have Alex, too.
Well, they've got at least a day's head start on us. So what do you say, boys? Let's get moving. What?
Janice is quickly escorted to the brig.
Jones, you son of a bitch! You make a move on me and then you lock me up? Is that how you treat a terrified shark attack survivor?
I didn't make a move on her. She was helping the Nazis. And the sharks were actually terrified of her, I swear.
He did make a move, and he got me to take my shirt off.
There was a good reason for that.
Oh, I'm sure. There usually is.
A red line on the map shows the whaling ship's path north through the Bering Strait to the Arctic Ocean, where the ship encounters a heavy storm.
Ah!
You may want to stay in here where it's dry, Indy.
Yeah, I noticed that. I can't see a damn thing out there. We could be yards from an iceberg and we'd never know it.
The captain says he's rarely seen a storm like this, if ever. One could almost be forgiven for feeling that something wants us to turn back.
North Siberian coast. The next day, Indy and Marcus scan the coast of ice under clear skies.
Anything?
I know it's somewhere in this region of the coast from studying Beresford Hope's section of the key, but there are so many inlets, they could be anywhere. And while we hesitate and look for a sign, Von Hassel and his goons can head straight there. It's hopeless, Marcus.
Indy brings Janice a peace offering of food.
I see you've got a Michelin star chef hidden on board, Professor. Nice work. Give him my compliments, yeah? I do it myself, but I'm not sure I'll survive the second mouthful.
It's about the only thing up here that's hot, Janice, so just eat it, will ya? Jesus, you're a pain in the ass.
Ooh, aren't we the cranky archaeological adventurer this morning? What's up? Care to share?
Von Hassel's got all 3 parts of the key. He has Alex. He has the map. He can head straight there and open it. Whatever it is. Meanwhile, we're stuck on top of the world playing polar bear safari, and there's nothing we can do about it.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you let me out of this cell, and I'll help you? After all, we're not that dissimilar, you and I. We're both all about the treasure. We make a pretty good team.
You, Janice, are all about the money, and people like that just can't be trusted. We're nothing alike. I am not all about the treasure. I'm an academic. I study these things.
You tell yourself that, sure. But if it were all about the study for you, you'd never leave the classroom. No, you run around the globe putting yourself and others at risk, looking for shiny things. Items of glory. Items that glorify. I may look for the check, but you're looking for a different kind of payout.
Okay, Janice, you win. There's nowhere for you to run up here, and I can't see life with the Inuits appealing to a high society gal like you. Congratulations, you now have free reign of the ship. Indy opens the door.
Nice choice, Prof. Now, how's about I pay you back for the favor?
She takes off her coat. Janice, there's no need, really. Besides, it's kind of cold in here, you know?
Don't flatter yourself. I'm grateful, but not that grateful. But I do have something exciting to show you.
Janice pulls her shirt open wide and takes a map from her bra.
I'm a fortune hunter, right? So do you honestly think I'm going to study an ancient artifact and not make a copy of the treasure map? I hid it where I figured Von Hassel wouldn't look. It's a little water-stained, but it's still readable. Only thing is, this is from Melberg and O'Brien's sections, so it's missing the final third. I didn't have long enough with Beresford Hope's piece to make a copy.
I did. What do you know, Janice? Maybe we're not that different after all.
They unload on the shore and assemble 2 teams of dogs attached to sleds. We've made land earlier than the map says to.
The route south seems more direct this way, so maybe we can catch them, or even overtake them. I hate to sound overly cautious, but there must be a reason the map avoids this particular area.
Marcus points to a horseshoe shape in the path that, if crossed, would be quite a shortcut. Yep, it's probably dangerous.
Highly dangerous. Oh dear.
Indiana Jones and Marcus Brody ride one sled behind Janice LeCroix on another as they cross a narrow beam of ice stretching across a deep ravine.
The ice bridge, Indy!
Damn it, Marcus, stop screaming in my ear. That map's at least thousands of years old. The landscape will have changed. Maybe this bridge didn't exist back then, so this chasm would have been impassable.
I realize that. I'm trying to tell you, the ice bridge is collapsing!
They barely make it onto the next ice mass. Come on! Before the bridge crumbles and falls behind them. That was too close.
Remind me to give you a pay raise when we get back home, Indy. You deserve it.
The two dog sleds make their way across the blank and silent tundra. Well, there's the mountains from the map.
And the requisite storm awaits us, I see.
Milberg said that the key was the beginning and the end.
Yes, and this certainly looks the place for it.
No sign of Von Hassel's group, though.
Indy?
Yeah?
You might want to look to your right.
Marcus points, and Indy sees the Nazis' dog sleds also making good speed across the icy ground. Okay. Thinking. Take the reins, Marcus. Get us in closer.
What are you going to do?
Something the college wouldn't approve of. Indiana Jones stands atop the sled, readying his whip in one hand and his revolver in the other.
Dr. Von Hassel.
What now?
Indy's whip wraps around the guard's head before he can finish.
It's Jones!
And Indy yanks him off the sled.
I could be wrong, old boy, but I think he said, "It's Jones."
Von Hassel looks over. Only to see Indy leaping from one dog sled to the other. He kicks the Nazi off the sled as he lands, then grabs another's head as he aims his gun and fires at the driver. Indy's sled races alongside Von Hassel's while Alex grapples with the villain.
Get off me, you fool!
Alex, jump across to the other sled! Indy jumps to dodge gunfire at his feet and nearly falls off. But he lashes his whip onto the sled and regains his balance. Whoa! Just as the Germans aim their machine guns at him.
You have him! Fire! Fire!
Suddenly, Janice rams her sled into theirs, and they drop their gun.
Oops, sorry guys. Women drivers. What are you gonna do?
Lightning strikes the ice field ahead of the sleds, and it begins to break apart. Indy is pitched off his sled, dropping his gun and whip as the ground disappears beneath them. Oh no! The dog sled slides off the ice into darkness, and Indy soon follows it. To be concluded. Northern Siberia, below ground. Indiana Jones hangs on to a stone gargoyle deep underneath the icy surface. He tries to climb up it, and for a moment thinks he is safe. But then the head breaks off, and they fall. He slides down the wall of the crevasse as it becomes a slope, finally coming to rest at a plateau. Ice. Thank God for ice. Someone up there must like me. Or maybe not. He approaches the growls in the darkness, and the dogs greet him warmly, except for one. Hey guys, he didn't survive the fall. I'm sorry. And neither did they, huh? Several Nazis lie nearby under their broken sleds. What is this? Almost seems like a road or a walkway for something big, leading up to the surface.
It's not a natural phenomenon. No sign of the others, and if I'm alive, they might be. Well, I think I'm alive. There is a white light ahead, and it's kind of beckoning me. And it's getting warm down here. And I'm talking to myself. I never used to talk to myself.
A hand covers his mouth from behind.
Janice whispers to him.
Quiet, we're not alone.
Stir the hell out of me.
Here's your weirdo whip. It came down ahead of you.
It is not weirdo.
I don't suppose you still have your revolver?
Lost it in the fall.
Great. Well, I suppose you can still knock cigarettes out of people's mouths for dimes. That'll be useful.
Indy touches the walls of the cave, which are covered with greenery. This plant life, I've never seen anything like it. I think it's what's giving off the heat. It's amazing.
You want to see amazing? Come take a look at this, Professor.
Below them are Alex, Marcus, von Hassel, and the Nazis, all looking ahead with wonder. Great. Marcus and Alex are alive, and it looks like the fall took care of some of von Hassel's men. I'm going to climb down and go around them. You wait a few seconds, and then...
Time out, Jones. Take another look.
They're not moving. Why aren't they moving? No one's even pointing guns. They usually really like pointing guns. I don't understand.
You're missing the big picture.
Janice turns his face to look beyond them. Good God.
Maybe. I wouldn't count on it.
In the center of the large cavern sits a temple with a massive doorway, decorated with strange symbols and huge carved tentacles flowing out from a horrific central body. And behind it, an entire city filled with alien architecture.
We have reached our destination, gentlemen. It would be rude not to follow this moment to its climax, seeing as fate has brought us here.
Von Hassel points his gun at Alex and Marcus.
Enter the tomb, please.
I'm not sure that's a terribly good idea. Whatever built that, I don't think it was human.
You boys should feel right at home then, eh?
Oop, you were right. Back to pointing the guns. So, what's the plan then, Professor? Hey, you hear me?
The beginning and the end, Melberg said. It's the end of everything we thought we knew, and the beginning of a new world, a new history. And I don't think it's a tomb.
What is it then?
A gatehouse. It's the front door. It's locked, and Von Hassel has the key.
A front door? What's behind the front door? And why is it locked?
To keep me out, sweetheart. It's always to keep me out. Never quite works, though.
Yeah, but sometimes doors are locked to keep things inside.
Indy and Janice follow the others into the temple, staying hidden above them.
We have come all this way, searching for knowledge, my friends. And knowledge is what we have found.
Inside, the room is covered with more swirling tentacles and squamous forms, and rises several stories to a high roof which is pitch black and blanketed by points of white. An enormous stone door stands shut on one wall.
Is that?
It's a map of the stars.
Star charts, a definite route previously unknown, an atlas of the heavens. Directions, my friends. Directions to the celestial. Directions to power.
What a shame you have no way of following those directions.
The Fuhrer is very excited by the possibilities of the rocket, Mr. Beresford Hope. We have great men such as Hermann Oberth and Werner von Braun working on such technology, even as we speak. So, not now, perhaps, but soon.
You can't be serious.
Why not, Brody? Let us hypothesize that whatever built this tomb created this map as a tribute to their home. After all, Mr. Beresford Hope's father and his two colleagues found the key in Popagay, Siberia. One of the largest impact craters on Earth, 100 kilometers in diameter, many millions of years old. Something came here, Brody. Something that offers us a glorious new universe of understanding. All that and more is locked behind that door. So now you will take that key and open it for me, Mr. Beresford Hope. You have studied it at length, so I have full confidence in your ability to avoid any unexpected booby traps.
Von Hassel points his gun at Alex again, who stares him down. One of the guards hears a voice in his head.
Kill them. Open the door.
What? There weren't just 2 colleagues, you know. The 3 of them found the key by accident when studying the Papagai crater. Someone, once upon a time, took it from here and hid it there for the world's safety. Or so my father believed. But the party that followed the key's map north was eventually 15 strong. Only Melberg, O'Brien, and my father made it out alive. And none of them were ever seen again. The doorway protects itself, was all my father would ever say on the matter. The guard inspects a glowing green globe in the wall.
Kill them. Open the door. Open the door. I will be forced to kill you.
All well and good, old son. You can threaten me, offer me the earth and beyond. But I swore to my drunken idiot of a father that I'd protect this at all costs. And I will. Knowledge for its own wonder is something close to heaven, I think. Knowledge for the pursuit of power and glory, however, that is the road to hell. So you and your Führer can bugger off. I'm not doing it.
Shouldn't we do something?
Wait. He'll open it. Indy begins to sweat nervously. Come on, Alex. You said yourself how desperate you are to know what's inside. Open it.
You have made your point clearly, Mr. Beresford Hope. Your stand and force of will are admirable. I can see that there is no point arguing with you.
Von Hassel extends his hidden blade.
Shoo. But it means you are no more use to me, I'm afraid.
He slashes Alex across the neck, killing him.
Shoo. No.
Marcus stares at his body in horror.
Now then, Brody, would you care to open the door in his place, perhaps? I shall give you 10 seconds to decide. What is this?
3 of the guards, now hypnotized, turn their guns on the others and fire.
Kill them.
Several of the other guards are gunned down as Von Hassel ducks behind them for cover, and Marcus is knocked down. Oh dear. In retrospect, bringing the rucksack full of dynamite may have been an error in judgment.
Kill them.
Indiana Jones swings out on a vine with his whip uncoiled, shouting to get their attention. Hey! He kicks one of the hypnotized guards off his feet, then cracks his whip out as he lands. It wraps around another guard's neck. Then Indy hauls him in and socks him. Come here! He begins to help Marcus up. Marcus, I'm sorry. You were right what you said back in Shanghai. I wanted it too much. We don't write history.
There'll be time for that later, Indy.
Or perhaps not. The last hypnotized guard draws a bead on them.
Kill them. Open the...
Until Janice shoots him from behind.
So, fellas, I get one of the luxury cabins on the way home for this, or what?
They all clap their hands over their ears as an unearthly sound, something like a growl, booms through the cavern.
What in the world was that?
Something nasty, Marcus. Something very nasty. Von Hassel has placed the key in the gigantic door, and the ancient stone rumbles as it opens. Indy grabs a satchel of dynamite from Marcus. Von Hassel stands before the wide tunnel which lay behind the door, swirling deep into the earth.
Did you hear that? That most heavenly of sounds? It is the sound of a birth, the birth of a new world. It is the same sound that the Führer himself will hear. Try to stop me if you must, but I have already sent back these coordinates from the ship. Others are coming. Knowledge is our world, Jones. It is what the likes of you and I seek out before we take breath each day.
Indy ducks Von Hassel's blade as he rants.
For us, this moment is akin to Epiphany, an ancient world previously undiscovered for us to explore. The monotony of repeated experience gone, replaced by the angelic, awakening touch of the new.
He grabs Indy by the collar, shouting in his face.
History, alive! For God's sake, man, this is everything that you are. You want this as much as I. Admit it.
Indy knees him in the crotch. Yeah, you're right. But right now that doesn't matter a damn. You know why? You killed Alex. He throws Von Hassel into the deep hole. Indy lights the dynamite. Won't be much left for your Fuhrer to see when he gets here, I'm afraid, and tosses it in after him. Run! That's hardly an ammunition dump, Indy. I needn't think We're underground, Marcus!
Oh, yes, I forgot.
Indy grabs Marcus and Janice, and they all run away. Von Hassel sees the dynamite slide down past him.
No, 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 no.
And explode. Ah! The cavern crumbles, and huge chunks of stone rain down, burying the gateway once again. Knowledge brings us closer to God, although what God that is can occasionally be a problem, admittedly. You did the right thing, Indy. Janice wraps her arms around him.
Yeah, Jones, even I was impressed.
Really?
Hell no. I thought there'd be gold doubloons or Julie gourds or something at the end of all this. What the hell kind of treasure hunter are you, anyway?
I'm not a treasure hunter, sweetheart. I'm a college professor. Better start climbing, I guess. The end. Well, I certainly hope you've enjoyed this presentation of Indiana Jones and the Tomb of the Gods, and this series of indie comics in general. Check out the others if you haven't, and keep an eye on this channel because I probably will come back and adapt more of the 90s Dark Horse series over time. Indiana Jones is a character who spurs the imagination with 5 excellent movies and a slew of fun video games. As I've said, I couldn't really get into the novels because they lacked the visual component the films had, but I love these comics, and I hope that you've been able to enjoy them almost as much as the movies and games. If you would like more adventures, I can't recommend the game Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb enough, although if you played that to death, Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine is a charming, if slow-paced, platformer from the early days of them, and it has a good story, if nothing else. And I'll always be partial to Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures on the Super Nintendo, and the arcade game for Temple of Doom. But beyond that, I can't recommend many of them besides Fate of Atlantis, and that with the caveat that I myself have never been able to make sense of those point-and-click adventure games, but other fans seem to love them. Otherwise, though, that'll do it for Indie Month, and I hope to see you again for more adventures with other characters soon. I just put these into a new playlist of all my movie spin-off comics. But until next time, take care out there. And as always, thanks for watching.